The story of the Milky Way begins not with instruments or equations, but with a quiet human moment, standing beneath a dark sky and noticing a pale, misty band of light stretching gently from one horizon to the other, a soft glow that did not move like clouds or flicker like stars, but rested there night after night, steady and patient, inviting curiosity without urgency. And for most of human history this faint river of light was simply accepted as part of the sky's natural background. Something beautiful yet distant, familiar yet unexplained, and it is from this calm acceptance that our understanding slowly grew, because the Milky Way is not just an object we observe, but the environment we inhabit, the vast structure that holds our sun, our planet, and every night sky we have ever known. And realizing this does not require excitement or wonder alone, but a gentle shift in perspective, a gradual awareness that we are not looking outward at something separate, but inward at the larger system that carries us, and when approached slowly, this realization feels less overwhelming and more grounding, as if discovering that the house you live in is far larger and quieter than you once imagined, extending far beyond the walls you can see. And the Milky Way, as our galactic home, is a place defined not by sudden motion or chaos, but by slow rotation, long timescales, and stable patterns that unfold over hundreds of millions of years. And this slowness is important, because it mirrors the pace at which understanding naturally settles into the human mind, especially when the goal is rest rather than stimulation. And as we begin this story, it is helpful to let go of the idea that galaxies are distant spectacles, meant only to impress, and instead think of the Milky Way as a calm, structured environment, a vast neighborhood of stars moving together in quiet agreement, bound by gravity and shaped by time, where change happens gradually and predictably. And from within this structure, our view of the galaxy is limited but intimate, because we see it from the inside, embedded within one of its spiral arms, unable to step outside for a full view, but able to sense its presence through the distribution of stars, the motion of our sun, and the faint glow that arcs across the night sky. And this inside perspective gives the Milky Way a unique emotional quality, as it feels less like a distant object and more like a surrounding atmosphere, always there, always supporting motion without demanding attention. And when described calmly, the galaxy becomes less of a mystery to be solved and more of a setting to be understood, a backdrop against which all human history has quietly unfolded, from the first stargazers to modern observers. And throughout this long relationship, the Milky Way has remained unchanged in its essential structure, continuing its slow rotation, continuing to form stars, continuing to hold its contents together without interruption. And this continuity is soothing, because it suggests reliability on a scale far larger than individual lives. And as we rest our attention on this idea, it becomes easier to see how our place in the galaxy is not defined by importance or insignificance, but by participation, by simply being part of a system that functions without needing acknowledgement. And this participation is passive yet profound, because even in sleep, the Earth continues its orbit, the Sun continues its journey around the galactic center, and the Milky Way continues its rotation, carrying everything gently forward. And recognizing this can ease the mind, as it removes the pressure to control or influence outcomes, replacing it with trust in a larger, stable process. And the story of the Milky Way, when told slowly, becomes less about discovery and more about orientation, about understanding where we are rather than what we can do. And this orientation provides a sense of quiet belonging, as if realizing that no matter how small or transient individual moments may feel, they occur within a structure that is vast, ancient, and enduring. And the galaxy does not rush, does not react, does not demand, but simply continues, offering a steady rhythm against which life can rest. And as this story unfolds over the coming sections, it will move deeper into structure, motion, and meaning, but it always returns to this simple beginning, the idea that the Milky Way is our home, not in a poetic sense alone, but in a physical, measurable, and deeply calming way, a place where motion is slow, change is gradual, and existence is supported quietly, allowing the mind to settle into the awareness that it belongs to something far larger, far older, and far more stable than any single thought. And with this understanding gently in place, the story can continue, unfolding naturally, without haste, without pressure, and without the need to arrive anywhere other than where we already are. Long before telescopes or scientific language existed, humans became aware of the Milky Way, simply because the night itself invited attention, and in a world without artificial light, the sky revealed itself fully, stretching wide and deep above every landscape, and within that darkness, the Milky Way appeared not as an object, but as a presence, a soft, luminous band that crossed the sky with quiet consistency. And early humans did not need to search for it, because it was always there, gently visible whenever the moon set and the night grew still. And this constant visibility made the Milky Way feel familiar, rather than extraordinary, part of the natural order like mountains or rivers. And because early observation was rooted in survival, rather than curiosity, people noticed patterns instinctively, sensing repetition, orientation, and seasonal change without formal measurement, and the Milky Way became one of those steady markers, a guide that returned night after night, year after year, unchanged in its general shape and brightness. And this reliability gave it meaning long before explanation, because the human mind naturally attaches significance to what remains stable in an unpredictable world. And as communities gathered around fires and slept beneath open skies, the faint glow overhead became woven into collective awareness, not as a question to be answered, but as a feature to be accepted. And this acceptance shaped early human relationships with the cosmos, fostering observation without urgency, curiosity without pressure, and wonder without fear. And when people began to tell stories, the Milky Way often appeared as a pathway, a river, or a bridge, not because it demanded symbolism, but because its shape invited metaphor, stretching across the sky like something meant to be followed. And these interpretations were not attempts to explain scientifically, but to place human experience within a larger frame, allowing the mind to rest in narrative rather than uncertainty. And even without understanding its true nature, early observers recognized that the Milky Way was composed of countless tiny points of light blended together, because on especially clear nights, its texture appeared grainy, not smooth, hinting quietly at depth and complexity. And this subtle texture planted the earliest seeds of inquiry, though it would take thousands of years for those seeds to grow into scientific understanding. And throughout this long period, the Milky Way served as a reminder of scale, contrasting sharply with the immediate world of daily life, where movement was fast and change was constant, while the sky remained slow and unchanging. And this contrast created psychological balance, offering a sense of permanence that soothed the mind. And as civilizations developed, the Milky Way continued to occupy this quiet role, visible to farmers, travelers, sailors, and shepherds alike, acting as a shared reference point across cultures that had never met. And despite differences in language or belief, nearly all early societies noticed the same pale band and responded with calm fascination rather than alarm, because it did not behave unpredictably. It did not appear suddenly or disappear without warning. It simply remained, and this steadiness allowed it to blend into nightly routine, becoming something one could notice passively, without effort, which is why it rarely inspired fear, and instead fostered contemplation. And even when myths formed around it, those myths tended to be gentle rather than violent, reflecting the Milky Way's soft appearance and quiet persistence. And from a modern perspective, this long phase of unmeasured observation is important, because it demonstrates that understanding does not always begin with explanation, but often with familiarity, and familiarity requires time, repetition, and stillness. And these conditions were naturally provided by the night sky long before science emerged. and the absence of artificial light allowed the Milky Way to dominate the sky visually, making it impossible to ignore, yet easy to accept. And this combination shaped the human mind's early relationship with the universe as something vast, but non-threatening, immense but calm. And as tools slowly developed and civilizations began recording astronomical observations, the Milky Way remained resistant to precise definition, not because it was unknowable, but because its scale exceeded the limits of naked eye observation, and this limitation encouraged humility rather than frustration, as people learned to live with unanswered questions, allowing curiosity to coexist with rest. And this mindset is especially relevant when approaching the Milky Way as part of a sleep-oriented narrative, because it mirrors the mental state we naturally enter before sleep, where clarity softens, boundaries blur, and acceptance replaces analysis. And just as early humans did not need to understand the Milky Way to feel oriented beneath it, modern listeners do not need constant explanation to feel grounded by its presence. And returning to this early way of seeing, where noticing precedes knowing, can quiet the mind, because it removes the pressure to solve or define, and instead invites gentle awareness. And the fact that the Milky Way was noticed long before it was understood reinforces an important truth, that perception itself is meaningful, that simply seeing and acknowledging the universe has value independent of explanation. And this perspective allows the story of the galaxy to unfold slowly, respecting the pace at which understanding naturally arrives. And as we rest with this idea, imagining ancient skies untouched by artificial glow, it becomes easier to feel connected across time, sharing the same view as countless observers before us, all standing beneath the same luminous band, all sensing its presence without needing to name it. And this continuity creates calm, because it reminds us that we are part of an unbroken chain of observation, carried forward gently by the same galaxy that once illuminated the nights of our earliest ancestors. And in this way, the simple act of noticing the Milky Way becomes a quiet bridge between past and present, between curiosity and rest, between awareness and sleep, setting the tone for everything that follows. As human awareness deepened and societies began forming shared traditions, the Milky Way slowly transformed from a familiar presence into a story-bearing feature of the sky, not because it demanded explanation, but because the human mind naturally weaves meaning around what it sees repeatedly. And since the Milky Way appeared unchanged across generations, it became an ideal anchor for myth, memory, and imagination, allowing cultures to express their values, fears, and hopes through a feature that felt eternal. And across continents and eras, people looked up at the same soft band of light and gave it names that reflected connection rather than distance, often imagining it as a road, a river, or a path, symbols that suggest movement and belonging rather than separation. And this consistency in metaphor is striking, because it shows how the visual nature of the Milky Way gently guided interpretation, its elongated shape naturally evoking continuity and passage. And in many cultures, these stories were not dramatic or frightening, but calm and purposeful, portraying the Milky Way as a guide for souls, a trail left by ancestors, or a quiet boundary between worlds. And these narratives served a psychological role, offering reassurance in the face of uncertainty, by suggesting that life and death were part of a larger, orderly journey, rather than abrupt or meaningless transitions. And the sky itself became a shared storybook, where meaning was projected not to control the unknown, but to soften it. And even when myths varied, their tone often remained gentle, reflecting the Milky Way's soft glow and steady presence. And this gentleness mattered, because it allowed people to coexist peacefully with what they did not understand, fostering curiosity without anxiety. And as oral traditions passed from one generation to the next, the Milky Way became woven into seasonal rituals, navigation practices, and spiritual reflection, not as a distant abstraction, but as an intimate feature of nightly life, visible during quiet moments, when work slowed and the mind naturally turned inward. And in this way, myth did not compete with rest, but complemented it, offering stories that could be recalled easily in the stillness of night, reinforcing a sense of place within the universe. And from a modern scientific perspective, these myths may appear inaccurate, but their purpose was never to explain mechanics, rather to create emotional coherence, helping individuals feel oriented within a vast and often unpredictable world. And this orientation reduced fear, replacing it with familiarity. And familiarity is one of the strongest foundations for calm. And the persistence of Milky Way myths across cultures suggests that people everywhere responded similarly to the same visual stimulus, finding comfort in repetition and pattern rather than disturbance. And even as societies advanced and began recording observations more systematically, myth and early science coexisted without conflict, because myth addressed meaning, while observation addressed pattern, and neither demanded urgency. And during this long period, the Milky Way remained resistant to precise classification, appearing neither as a collection of individual stars, nor as a single object. And this ambiguity allowed imagination to flourish without pressure to resolve uncertainty. And the night sky became a space where the mind could wander gently, reflecting on stories without needing conclusions. And this mental state closely resembles the transition into sleep, where thoughts loosen and narratives become fluid. And it is no coincidence that many cultures associated the Milky Way with dreams, afterlife journeys, or spiritual passage, because its appearance naturally aligns with introspective states. And as artificial lighting and structured timekeeping were absent, nights were longer, quieter, and more conducive to reflection, allowing these stories to settle deeply into collective memory. And over centuries, the Milky Way's mythological role remained stable, even as other interpretations of the world shifted, reinforcing its position as a constant within human experience. And this constancy provided emotional grounding, especially in times of change, as people could look up and see something unchanged, regardless of events on Earth. And this relationship between the Milky Way and human psychology highlights an important aspect of scientific storytelling for sleep, because before the galaxy was understood as a spiral of stars, it was understood as a companion to human thought, present during moments of rest, storytelling, and reflection. And reconnecting with this early perspective allows modern listeners to experience the galaxy not as data, but as atmosphere, something that surrounds rather than confronts. And as we rest with these ancient interpretations, it becomes clear that myth was not a failure of understanding, but a natural stage in the human relationship with the cosmos, one that prioritized emotional alignment over explanation. And this alignment created space for calm acceptance. And even today, when scientific explanations are readily available, the Milky Way retains this quiet emotional resonance, because the mind still responds to its appearance in the same way it always has, with a sense of continuity, softness, and depth. And recognizing this shared response across time allows us to feel connected, not only to the galaxy itself, but to all those who once stood beneath it, telling stories in the dark, finding comfort in its steady glow, and drifting into sleep with the same sky overhead. And as the story continues, these myths gradually give way to observation and measurement. But they never disappear entirely, because they remain embedded in the way humans emotionally relate to the night sky, reminding us that understanding begins not with explanation, but with quiet attention, and that the Milky Way has always been a place where the mind can rest, long before it became something the mind could measure, as human thinking slowly shifted from purely symbolic interpretation toward observation and record keeping. The Milky Way became a quiet bridge between myth and early science, not through sudden revelation, but through gradual questioning that unfolded over centuries, as people began to notice that while stories gave comfort, patterns invited curiosity. And this curiosity did not replace myth abruptly, but layered gently on top of it, allowing both to coexist without conflict. And early astronomers, often priests or scholars rather than scientists in the modern sense, began paying closer attention to the sky, not to challenge tradition, but to understand regularity, and in doing so, they treated the Milky Way with patience. Observing its position relative to seasons, noting how it shifted across the sky throughout the year, rising earlier in some months and later in others. And these slow changes hinted that the Milky Way was not fixed to the Earth, but part of a larger celestial system. And this realization did not immediately dissolve myth, but softened it, allowing symbolic meaning to remain while making space for natural explanation. And this gradual transition is important because it shows that human understanding evolves best when it does not rush, when new ideas are allowed to settle alongside old ones, rather than replace them forcefully. And the Milky Way, with its gentle appearance and stable behavior, encouraged this kind of thoughtful progression, because it did not provoke urgency or fear. And as calendars became more refined and navigation more precise, the Milky Way served as a reference point, helping travelers orient themselves at night, reinforcing its role as a guide rather than a mystery. And this practical function grounded it further in daily life, reducing the need for dramatic interpretation. And as writing systems developed, records of the night sky became more detailed, and descriptions of the Milky Way shifted subtly from metaphor toward observation, noting brightness variations, width, and texture. And these descriptions, while still framed poetically, marked the early stages of scientific thinking, because they focused on what was seen rather than what was imagined. And this emphasis on observation created a new relationship with the sky, one based on consistency and measurement, rather than symbolism alone. And yet, because tools were limited, explanations remained tentative, allowing humility to persist. And this humility prevented anxiety, because uncertainty was accepted as natural rather than threatening. And the Milky Way remained an example of something visible yet unresolved, teaching that not all questions require immediate answers. And this lesson aligns closely with the mental state associated with rest, where unresolved thoughts are allowed to drift without pressure. And across different civilizations, similar transitions occurred independently, suggesting that this shift from myth to observation is a natural stage in human development, rather than a culturally specific event. And in each case, the Milky Way served as a stable focal point for this transition, because it was always present, always accessible, and always gentle in appearance. And as instruments like early sighting tools and armillary spheres were developed, they enhanced observation without altering the fundamental experience of looking up. And the Milky Way remained something one encountered with the naked eye first, reinforcing a direct, personal connection to the sky. And this directness kept early science grounded in human perception, preventing abstraction from becoming detached or overwhelming. And as thinkers began proposing that the Earth was not the center of all motion, the Milky Way quietly supported this idea by existing as something larger and more encompassing, hinting at scale beyond immediate surroundings. And yet, because this idea emerged slowly, it did not destabilize belief systems abruptly, allowing people to adjust their worldview incrementally. And this incremental adjustment reduced resistance and fear, replacing them with curiosity and calm acceptance. And throughout this period, the Milky Way remained unchanged in appearance, reinforcing the idea that while interpretations evolve, the universe itself continues steadily, indifferent to how it is understood. And this indifference is comforting, because it suggests that understanding is for human benefit, not cosmic necessity. And as early science matured, separating itself gradually from myth, it did not erase the emotional resonance of the Milky Way, but refined it, transforming wonder into quiet respect. And respect is a low, arousal emotional state, well suited to reflection and sleep. And by the time formal astronomy began to emerge, the Milky Way had already been observed for thousands of years without disruption, proving that patient attention can coexist with incomplete knowledge. and this realization supports a restful approach to learning, where curiosity does not demand immediate resolution. And as we consider this phase of transition, it becomes clear that the Milky Way taught humanity not just about the sky, but about how to learn itself, slowly, gently, and without urgency. And this method of understanding remains valuable today, especially in a world saturated with information, because it reminds us that insight unfolds best when the mind is calm, receptive, and unhurried. And by reconnecting with this early scientific mindset, listeners can experience astronomy not as a stream of facts, but as a gradual alignment between perception and explanation, where clarity emerges naturally over time. And just as ancient observers allowed meaning to shift gradually without anxiety, modern listeners can allow understanding to settle softly, trusting that not every detail needs immediate focus. And in this way, the Milky Way continues to serve its original role, not only as an object of study, but as a teacher of patience, guiding the mind gently from imagination to observation, and from observation to quiet understanding, without ever disturbing the stillness of the night. The moment humanity began to understand that the Milky Way was not a cloud, not a mist, and not a thin veil of light painted onto the sky, but instead a vast collection of countless distant stars, marked one of the most quietly transformative shifts in our relationship with the universe, because this realization did not arrive suddenly or dramatically, but unfolded slowly through careful observation, patience, and the gradual refinement of tools. And when early telescopes were finally turned toward the faint band of light, they did not reveal something entirely new, but gently confirmed what attentive eyes had long suspected: that the Milky Way's soft glow was granular, composed of innumerable tiny points of light packed so closely together that the human eye blended them into a continuous haze. And this discovery was profound not because it shattered belief, but because it extended familiarity, transforming something already known into something more deeply understood. And the idea that the Milky Way was made of stars did not remove its mystery, but reframed it, shifting wonder from surface appearance to internal structure. And this reframing encouraged a calmer form of awe, one rooted in scale rather than spectacle. And as astronomers slowly mapped these stars, noticing that their density increased along the band of the Milky Way and decreased away from it, a new picture began to form, suggesting that we were not observing an object placed upon the sky, but looking through a flattened system of stars from within. And this inside perspective required a significant adjustment in thinking, because it placed humanity not at the center of the universe, but embedded within a much larger structure. And importantly, this realization did not provoke panic or loss of meaning, because it emerged gradually, allowing minds to adapt gently. And this adaptability highlights an important psychological truth: that humans can accept even vast shifts in perspective, when those shifts occur slowly and without force. And the Milky Way, by revealing itself over centuries rather than moments, allowed this acceptance to take root without resistance. And as the concept of a stellar system expanded, the Milky Way began to be understood as a disk-like arrangement of stars, thicker toward the center and thinner toward the edges. And although the full spiral nature of the galaxy would take longer to uncover, this early understanding already suggested order rather than chaos, reinforcing the idea that the universe operates through structure and balance. And this sense of order is inherently calming, because it replaces randomness with pattern, and pattern supports trust, and trust allows the mind to rest. And during this period, astronomers faced significant limitations, as dust obscured distant stars and distances were difficult to measure. But instead of causing frustration, these limitations encouraged humility and patience, reinforcing the idea that knowledge unfolds over time. And this slow unfolding mirrors the rhythm of the Milky Way itself, which evolves over billions of years, indifferent to the pace of human inquiry. And as understanding grew, The Milky Way transitioned from being a feature of the sky to being a system that included the sun itself. And this inclusion was subtle but powerful, because it dissolved the boundary between observer and observed, placing humanity firmly within the phenomenon it studied. And this internal placement carries emotional weight, because it suggests belonging rather than separation, and belonging is one of the strongest sources of calm. And recognizing that the stars forming the Milky Way were similar to the sun further softened the universe, transforming distant lights into familiar entities governed by the same physical principles. And this familiarity reduced fear of the unknown, replacing it with quiet continuity. And as star catalogs expanded and stellar motion was measured, it became clear that stars were not fixed points, but moving participants in a larger rotational pattern. And this motion was not chaotic, but orderly and predictable, reinforcing the idea that the Milky Way was a stable structure rather than a transient formation. And stability on such a vast scale carries psychological reassurance, because it suggests endurance beyond individual lives, and endurance reduces existential urgency. And even as debates continued about the size and shape of the Milky Way, the central realization remained intact, that the faint band of light overhead was our view into a vast star system. And this realization subtly shifted humanity's sense of place, not diminishing it, but contextualizing it, allowing individuals to see themselves as part of a larger, ongoing process. And this process does not demand action or response, it simply continues. And this continuity invites rest, because it removes the burden of significance, replacing it with participation. And as scientific language developed, the Milky Way was no longer described only poetically, but analytically, yet the tone of discovery remained measured rather than triumphant, reflecting the gradual nature of understanding. And this measured tone is important, because it prevents overstimulation, allowing information to settle gently into awareness, and for sleep-oriented narration. This aspect of the Milky Way's discovery is especially valuable, because it demonstrates that even the most profound insights can arrive quietly, without disruption. And as we reflect on this stage of understanding, it becomes clear that realizing the Milky Way is a galaxy did not distance humanity from the cosmos, but brought it closer, turning the sky from a backdrop into an environment. And environments are places of habitation, not confrontation. And this shift supports emotional grounding, because it transforms the universe from something external to something encompassing. And as this realization settled into scientific thought, it paved the way for further discoveries. Yet it did so without urgency, allowing each new layer of understanding to build upon the last. And this layered approach mirrors the way the mind naturally relaxes, gradually releasing tension and moving toward rest. And by the time the Milky Way was firmly understood as a galaxy of stars, the emotional groundwork had already been laid through centuries of calm observation, ensuring that this knowledge could be held without anxiety, and instead inspire quiet reflection. And this quiet reflection remains one of the Milky Way's greatest gifts, reminding us that understanding our place in the universe does not require speed or intensity, but patience, humility, and the willingness to let insight emerge slowly, just as the galaxy itself reveals its structure not in moments, but across ages, carrying us gently within it, night after night, without ever demanding our attention, only offering it. As understanding deepened and the Milky Way became accepted as a vast system of stars, rather than a surface feature of the sky, astronomers slowly began to ask not only what the galaxy was made of, but what shape it took. And this question, though seemingly simple, required patience, because understanding the form of something from within it is inherently difficult, especially when distances are immense and perspectives are limited. And for a long time, the Milky Way was imagined as a flattened disk or an irregular cloud, because early measurements could only hint at structure, not define it. And yet, through careful observation of star distribution and motion, subtle clues emerged, suggesting that the galaxy was not uniform, but organized, and these clues did not appear as sharp images or clear outlines, but as gentle patterns, variations in star density, regions of brightness and darkness, and systematic motion that pointed toward an underlying order. And this order was eventually understood as spiral in nature, not as a dramatic whirlpool, but as a calm, rotating system where stars follow long, curved paths around a central region. And importantly, this realization did not come with visual confirmation at first, but through inference, requiring trust in data and patience with incomplete views. And this method of understanding aligns naturally with a calm mental state, because it values consistency over immediacy. And as astronomers mapped star motions, they noticed that stars closer to the galactic center moved differently than those farther out, hinting at rotational behavior. And when combined with the distribution of gas and dust, these observations suggested arms, long, gently curving regions where stars were more densely packed. And these arms were not rigid structures, but flowing patterns, shaped by gravity and motion over millions of years. And this flowing nature is important, because it reframes the galaxy not as a static object, but as a dynamic yet stable system, where change occurs gradually and predictably. And the idea of spiral arms often evokes images of dramatic rotation, but in reality, the Milky Way's rotation is slow beyond everyday comprehension, taking hundreds of millions of years for a single orbit. And this timescale is calming rather than overwhelming, because it removes urgency entirely, placing all human activity within a gentle, extended rhythm. And as the spiral model became more refined, astronomers understood that these arms are regions of ongoing star formation, where gas and dust compress slowly, giving birth to new stars over long periods. And this process is neither explosive nor chaotic on a galactic scale, but measured and continuous, reinforcing the idea that the Milky Way sustains itself through balance rather than disruption. And recognizing this balance allows the mind to rest, because it suggests that even vast systems operate without hurry. And as the sun's position within one of these arms was identified, humanity's sense of place shifted again, not toward insignificance, but toward integration, because being located within a spiral arm means being part of an active yet calm region of the galaxy, where stars form and evolve steadily. And this realization deepens the feeling of belonging introduced earlier, grounding it in physical structure rather than abstraction. And because spiral arms are not sharply defined boundaries, but gradual concentrations, the Milky Way avoids rigid segmentation, instead presenting a smooth continuity of matter and motion. And this smoothness mirrors the mental flow associated with relaxation, where thoughts drift rather than jump. And as scientific models improved, the spiral shape of the Milky Way became clearer, even without direct imagery, through radio observations that penetrated dust and revealed hidden structures. And these techniques extended perception without altering the calm nature of discovery, because they unfolded over decades rather than moments. And the eventual confirmation of the Milky Way as a barred spiral galaxy added further nuance, revealing a central bar of stars extending across the core, guiding motion and shaping arm structure. And this feature did not complicate understanding, but enriched it, showing that complexity and calm can coexist. And the galaxy's form, though intricate, remains stable across immense timescales, reinforcing trust in its continuity. And when considered emotionally, the spiral shape carries symbolic resonance, not because of imposed meaning, but because spirals naturally represent continuity, expansion, and return, patterns found throughout nature, from shells to storms. And recognizing this similarity fosters a sense of harmony between cosmic and earthly forms. And harmony reduces cognitive strain, allowing understanding to feel intuitive rather than forced. And the spiral structure also explains why the Milky Way appears as a band from Earth, because we are viewing the dense plane of the disk edge, looking along the spiral arms rather than across them. And this perspective transforms the sky's appearance into a direct consequence of position, reinforcing the idea that perception is shaped by location. And this realization encourages humility and calm acceptance of limited viewpoints, because it shows that incomplete views are natural rather than flawed. And as this understanding settled into astronomy, the Milky Way transitioned fully into a living system in the human mind, a structure defined by motion, pattern, and balance rather than mystery alone. And this transition supports restful contemplation, because it replaces uncertainty with gentle explanation, without eliminating wonder. And as we rest with the image of a vast spiral galaxy, rotating slowly, carrying billions of stars along curved paths that never intersect chaotically, it becomes easier to feel supported by the universe rather than overwhelmed by it. And this feeling of support is essential for deep rest, because it reassures the mind that existence unfolds within stable boundaries. And by understanding the spiral shape of the Milky Way, we are not invited to marvel at complexity, but to trust in order, to sense the quiet choreography of stars moving together without collision or haste. And this choreography continues regardless of observation, reminding us that the universe does not need attention to function. And this independence is calming, because it removes pressure, allowing the mind to release effort and simply observe. And as this section gently settles, the spiral form of the Milky Way remains not as a visual spectacle, but as a conceptual anchor, a reminder that even immense systems can be both dynamic and calm, structured yet flowing, and that within this slow, graceful rotation, our own motion is carried effortlessly. Night after night, as the galaxy turns, quietly and without interruption, holding everything within it in steady, patient balance. Once the spiral nature of the Milky Way was gently understood, attention shifted naturally toward the behavior of the stars themselves, not as isolated points of light, but as participants in a shared motion. And this motion, rather than being fast or chaotic, revealed itself as remarkably calm and coordinated. As stars follow long, predictable paths around the galactic center, guided by gravity in a manner that resembles a slow, patient dance rather than a rush or collision. And this realization reframed the galaxy from a static structure into a living system, one defined by movement that is so gradual it feels almost still. And understanding this slowness is important, because it aligns cosmic motion with the pace of rest, rather than activity. And as astronomers measured stellar velocities, they discovered that even stars moving at hundreds of kilometers per second complete only a tiny fraction of their galactic orbit within a human lifetime, emphasizing how deeply time is stretched within the Milky Way. And this stretching of time is psychologically soothing, because it places daily concerns within a much slower context, reducing urgency and anxiety. And the spiral arms themselves are not rigid structures through which stars pass like objects on a conveyor belt, but regions of higher density that move as patterns rather than material entities, meaning stars drift in and out of these arms gradually, without disruption. And this subtlety reinforces the idea that the galaxy's structure is flexible rather than fixed, adaptive rather than brittle, and flexibility supports stability, because it allows systems to absorb change without breaking. And this resilience is comforting, especially when considered on a cosmic scale. And as gas clouds move within these arms, they compress slowly, giving rise to new stars over millions of years, a process that unfolds quietly, without sudden flashes visible to the naked eye. And this slow star formation mirrors the way growth often occurs in nature, incrementally and without drama, reinforcing the idea that creation does not require urgency. And alongside this birth of new stars, older stars continue their steady paths, evolving gently as they age, without disturbing the larger structure. And this coexistence of beginnings and endings within the same calm system highlights the Milky Way's capacity for continuity, where change is constant yet non-disruptive. And understanding this balance allows the mind to rest, because it suggests that transformation does not inherently lead to instability, and the motions within the galaxy are governed by gravity, a force that acts consistently and impartially, pulling without intention or emotion, and this impartiality is calming, because it removes unpredictability, replacing it with reliable behavior. And as astronomers studied stellar motion more deeply, they found that stars closer to the galactic center orbit faster than those farther out, yet all remain bound within the same system, demonstrating coordination across vast distances. And this coordination suggests unity rather than fragmentation, reinforcing the idea that the Milky Way functions as a whole rather than a collection of competing parts. And emotionally, this unity offers reassurance, because it mirrors the human desire for coherence and belonging. And even phenomena that might seem violent, such as supernovae, occur infrequently and locally, without destabilizing the galactic structure, further emphasizing the system's resilience. And this resilience supports a calm narrative, because it shows that even dramatic events are absorbed smoothly into the larger flow. And as scientific models refined our understanding of stellar motion, the Milky Way increasingly appeared not as a place of constant upheaval, but as an environment defined by equilibrium, where forces balance over time. And equilibrium is one of the strongest foundations for rest, because it implies that systems naturally return to stability after disturbance. And for sleep-oriented storytelling, this aspect of the galaxy is particularly valuable, because it allows listeners to imagine a universe that moves without strain, where stars glide along curved paths, never colliding, never rushing, simply following gravity's quiet guidance. And visualizing this motion can slow mental activity, encouraging thoughts to drift along similarly gentle trajectories. And as we imagine billions of stars orbiting together, each following its own path yet contributing to the collective motion, the Milky Way begins to resemble a vast, synchronized system rather than a chaotic swarm. And this synchronization reduces cognitive noise, because it replaces randomness with pattern, and pattern naturally soothes the mind. And the fact that this motion has continued uninterrupted for billions of years further reinforces trust in its stability, because longevity implies reliability, and reliability supports relaxation. And when we consider that the sun itself participates in this motion, carrying Earth along without effort, it becomes clear that we are not passive observers, but active participants in this galactic rhythm. And yet, because the motion is so slow, we feel still. And this illusion of stillness is beneficial, because it allows rest without denying movement. And this duality, motion without sensation, change without disruption, defines much of the Milky Way's character. And understanding it helps the mind release the expectation that activity must be accompanied by stress, and instead accept that processes can unfold quietly. And as this acceptance settles, the galaxy becomes less of an abstract concept and more of a supportive environment, one that holds motion gently rather than imposing it. And in this environment, there is no need to hurry, because everything arrives in its own time, guided by forces that do not waver. And this realization allows attention to soften, thoughts to slow, and awareness to rest within the idea that even on the largest scales, existence is not rushed, but measured, steady, and calm. And as the stars continue their endless orbits around the Milky Way's center, moving together in silent agreement, they offer a model for rest itself, showing that it is possible to move forward without tension, to change without strain, and to exist within a system that carries you gently, night after night, without asking anything in return. As attention naturally drifts inward from the wide sweep of spiral arms toward the heart of the Milky Way, the galactic center emerges not as a place of chaos, but as a region of quiet gravity and deep time, hidden from direct view by vast clouds of dust, yet understood through careful, patient observation. And this hidden nature itself contributes to calm, because it reminds us that not everything needs to be seen to be known. And at the very center of the galaxy lies a supermassive black hole, an object so dense and compact that its influence shapes the motion of stars across thousands of light years. And yet, despite its immense mass, it does not behave like a violent force tearing the galaxy apart, but instead acts as a steady anchor, guiding motion without disturbance. And this realization challenges common assumptions, because black holes are often imagined as destructive or aggressive, but in reality, the one at the Milky Way's center is remarkably quiet, consuming little material, and existing in a state of long-term balance. And this balance is important, because it reframes the idea of power as something that does not require activity or display, but can exist in stillness. And the stars nearest the galactic center move along predictable paths, their orbits measured carefully over decades, revealing consistency rather than unpredictability. And this consistency supports trust, because it demonstrates that even in extreme environments, natural laws maintain order. And as scientists observed these stellar motions, they did so patiently, allowing years of data to accumulate before drawing conclusions, reinforcing the theme that understanding emerges through time rather than urgency. And this approach mirrors the way the mind settles before sleep, gradually releasing focus, rather than snapping into rest. And the black hole itself remains invisible, not because it is mysterious, but because its nature prevents light from escaping, and this invisibility can feel reassuring rather than unsettling, because it suggests that presence does not depend on visibility, and influence does not require attention. And this idea aligns with a restful mental state, where thoughts do not need to be illuminated or resolved to be acknowledged. And around the galactic center, stars are packed more densely than in the outer regions. Yet their motion remains smooth, avoiding collision due to the vast distances between them. And this demonstrates how density and calm can coexist, a concept that can be comforting when considering crowded thoughts or emotions, because it suggests that closeness does not require conflict. And as gas clouds drift near the center, they form stars slowly, despite the stronger gravitational environment, showing that creation persists even in regions shaped by intense forces. And this persistence reinforces the galaxy's resilience, because it shows that no single feature dominates the system to the point of disruption. And the galactic center, though extreme in some measures, does not destabilize the Milky Way, but supports its structure, acting as a central reference point rather than a source of disturbance. And emotionally, this can be grounding, because it suggests that centers, whether physical or mental, do not need to be active to be effective. And as observations expanded beyond visible light into radio and infrared wavelengths, astronomers gained clearer insight into the galactic core without altering its calm nature, because these techniques extended perception quietly, without dramatic imagery, and the data they provided confirmed what patients had already suggested, that the Milky Way's center is stable over long timescales, evolving slowly rather than violently. And this slow evolution aligns with the galaxy's overall character, reinforcing the idea that change is measured, and that even powerful forces operate within limits. And when considered from a human perspective, the distance between Earth and the galactic center creates emotional space, because it places extreme phenomena far from daily experience, allowing awareness without anxiety. And knowing that the black hole exists does not affect the calmness of our local region, because its influence is gentle at such distances, guiding motion without intrusion. And this separation allows the mind to acknowledge complexity without being overwhelmed. And as we imagine the galaxy rotating slowly around this central mass, with stars following curved paths shaped by gravity rather than forceful control, it becomes easier to view the Milky Way as a balanced system, where extremes coexist with stability. And this balance is soothing, because it reflects a universe that can contain both intensity and calm without conflict. And recognizing this helps dissolve the tendency to equate power with danger, replacing it with an understanding of power as structure. And structure supports rest, because it offers predictability. And as this awareness settles, the galactic center becomes less of a dramatic focal point and more of a quiet foundation, something that exists steadily in the background, supporting motion without requiring attention. And this concept parallels the way deep sleep supports the mind, unseen yet essential, active in subtle ways without conscious awareness. And by allowing this parallel to form, the story of the Milky Way shifts gently from observation to experience, inviting listeners not just to understand the galaxy's center, but to feel its steadiness, to sense how even the most massive objects can exist without disruption, and how stability does not require visibility. And as the galaxy continues its slow rotation, anchored by a center that neither rushes nor demands, it offers a model for rest itself, suggesting that calm can exist at the core of even the most complex systems, and that within this calm center, everything else can move freely, guided gently, without strain, night after night, across unimaginable spans of time. Though the galactic center remains distant, hidden behind dense clouds of cosmic dust, and unreachable by direct sight, it is impossible not to feel a subtle connection to it, because the Milky Way, in its quiet, rotating presence, links every star, every planet, and every human observer in an unbroken system. And this connection is not demanding or urgent, but gently reassuring, suggesting that even from afar, the center exerts a steady influence that maintains order and coherence, and this influence is invisible yet pervasive, much like the deep, slow rhythms that guide life itself, unseen yet essential. And as we consider our place within this vast structure, it becomes clear that distance does not diminish significance, because being far from the center does not remove us from its presence, and the sun, along with the earth and all its inhabitants, follows a gradual orbit around this core, moving at astonishing speeds in physical terms, yet imperceptibly in human experience, completing one circuit over hundreds of millions of years. And this slow, deliberate motion contrasts sharply with the frantic pace of daily life, offering a model for patience, continuity, and stability. And the very fact that such immense motion occurs without disruption allows the mind to perceive the galaxy as safe, predictable, and reliable. And this perception encourages relaxation, because it demonstrates that even immense systems function effortlessly when guided by consistent principles. And though the galactic center contains extreme phenomena, including a supermassive black hole and densely packed stars, their activity does not radiate outward in ways that disturb the rest of the galaxy. And this isolation creates a sense of balance, illustrating that intensity can exist without imposing chaos. And this balance mirrors the human need for calm amidst potential stressors, suggesting that presence alone need not be threatening. And as starlight from across the galaxy reaches us, diffused by the vast distances it travels, we are reminded that even when influence is indirect, it shapes the system subtly, guiding motion without aggression. And this subtle guidance can be calming, because it shows that control and effect do not require force or noise. And as observers on Earth, we sense this connection through the structure of the Milky Way itself. The gentle curvature of its spiral arms, the density of stars along its plane, and the quiet, almost imperceptible rotation that carries us steadily around the center. And this sense of embeddedness, of being carried along in a larger system, nurtures security, trust, and a profound feeling of belonging, because it situates individual experience within a framework that has endured for billions of years, unaltered by the fleeting concerns of daily life. And as we imagine the stars moving in silent harmony around the galactic center, we recognize a pattern of unity and interdependence, a system in which every component, from the smallest star to the largest nebula, contributes to a slow, organized flow. And this recognition can settle the mind, because it demonstrates that harmony is possible even on scales that far exceed comprehension, and that individual actions, while small in comparison, are integrated into a larger order. And understanding this integration encourages reflection, introspection, and ultimately, rest, because it allows the mind to release the need to control outcomes, and to trust in the natural rhythms that sustain existence. And as our imagination drifts toward the invisible center. We sense a magnetic calm, an anchor that maintains the shape of the galaxy and the stability of our orbit, and this anchor need not be observed to be effective, illustrating that the most powerful influences can operate quietly, consistently, and without fanfare. And this idea translates easily into human experience, reminding us that support and structure often work in the background, gently guiding life without demanding attention. And as we extend this metaphor, the distance to the galactic center becomes less a measure of separation and more a source of perspective, teaching that space and time are expansive, yet connection persists across both, and this continuity nurtures patience, reinforcing the understanding that significance is not dictated by proximity, and that influence can be profound even when indirect. And as we allow these thoughts to permeate, the mind begins to relax, settling into the knowledge that the universe, in its immense scale and subtle motion, is neither hostile nor hurried, but patient, consistent, and enduring. And in this awareness, the distance to the galactic center ceases to feel alien or intimidating, instead becoming a source of reassurance, a reminder that order exists on scales far beyond our comprehension, and that this order is maintained through gentle guidance, slow motion, and the steady application of natural law. And as the Milky Way rotates imperceptibly around its central core, carrying billions of stars along, the knowledge of this hidden anchor evokes both wonder and tranquility, because we realize that even in the unseen heart of a galaxy, structure, stability, and balance prevail, supporting the motions of countless systems quietly and efficiently. And this understanding, carried into consciousness, provides a model for rest itself, a world in which influence is calm, presence is steady, and the mind can float along with the rhythm of the galaxy, carried securely in its orbit, untroubled and free to drift into deep, unhurried sleep. As we move outward from the galactic center, toward the sprawling disk of the Milky Way, attention shifts to the vast plane where billions of stars drift together in slow, coordinated orbits, and this plane, seen from our position on Earth, stretches as a luminous band across the night sky, a continuous arc that invites the mind to wander gently, tracing its path without pressure or urgency. And this vast plane, though home to immense numbers of stars, gas clouds, and nebulae, operates with a surprising quietude, because motion occurs over millions of years, distances are vast, and interactions are guided by gravity in a rhythm so slow it is imperceptible in daily experience. And as we contemplate this, it becomes easier to imagine ourselves as part of this grand system, moving steadily along our orbit without effort, carried by the same forces that guide countless other stars. And this participation in a slow cosmic rhythm is calming, because it reframes motion as effortless rather than demanding, and structure as nurturing rather than controlling. And within the disk, spiral arms wind gracefully around the central core, regions where stars are more densely packed, gas clouds condense, and new stars are born over millions of years. Yet these processes are quiet, continuous and balanced, never abrupt or overwhelming, and this continuous creation reinforces the idea that life, on both stellar and human scales, can unfold gently, incrementally, and without pressure, allowing the mind to settle into a rhythm that mirrors the galaxy itself. And dust lanes weave between the brighter bands of stars, obscuring some regions while highlighting others, creating a soft contrast that enhances depth perception and encourages slow, reflective observation. And as we visualize this interplay of light and shadow, the mind is invited to relax, tracing patterns rather than rushing to conclusions. And open clusters, globular clusters, and diffuse nebulae punctuate the disk, providing points of interest that draw attention subtly without demanding focus. And this gentle invitation aligns with the natural process of falling asleep, where attention drifts without force, curiosity persists without urgency, and the mind observes without intervention. And as stars orbit through the disk, they do so in near circular paths, maintaining the integrity of spiral arms, while avoiding collisions. and this predictable motion mirrors the concept of flow in human life, where movement can continue without chaos, and stability arises not from rigidity, but from coordinated, balanced paths. And as we imagine the Sun and Earth gliding along our section of the disk, following the orbit set long before human existence, and continuing long after, a sense of continuity emerges, connecting individual life to a vast, enduring system. And this continuity is soothing, because it reassures that existence is embedded within a larger, reliable framework. And as we consider the interactions of gas and dust within the spiral arms, compressing slowly to form new stars, we recognize that creation is gradual, patient, and inevitable within natural law, and this inevitability removes the need for worry or urgency, allowing the mind to rest in acceptance. And as supernovae occasionally punctuate the disk with brilliant, distant flashes of light, they are absorbed by the surrounding environment without destabilizing the system, illustrating once again that even dramatic events can occur within a calm, ordered framework. And this observation supports a mental state that acknowledges change without fear, presence without tension, and motion without chaos. And as we expand our awareness to include the outer reaches of the disk, we see stars thinning gradually toward the halo, where isolated stars and globular clusters orbit the galaxy in wider paths. And this transition from dense inner regions to sparse outer regions provides both contrast and balance, illustrating that the galaxy accommodates diversity while maintaining cohesion. And this balance is emotionally reassuring, because it mirrors the human need for variation within stability, allowing both rest and exploration. And when we consider the full scale of the Milky Way's disk, stretching tens of thousands of light years across, with its billions of stars moving in silent harmony, it becomes easier to sense the order that underlies apparent complexity. And this sense of order fosters trust, calm, and a release of cognitive strain, because it demonstrates that large systems can operate effortlessly when guided by consistent principles. And as the disk rotates around the galactic center, the motion is slow yet inexorable, carrying each star along a predetermined path that interacts with others smoothly, creating a pattern that is neither rigid nor chaotic. And this smooth interaction offers a model for mental processes, suggesting that thoughts and feelings can coexist without conflict if allowed to flow in gentle coordination. And as we reflect on these vast, slow motions, a deep sense of awe emerges, not the sharp awe that demands attention, but a soft, expansive awe, one that encourages observation without anxiety, curiosity without urgency, and presence without effort. And in this state, the Milky Way ceases to be a distant, abstract entity, becoming instead a living environment in which we are naturally immersed, carried effortlessly along paths set in motion long before human observation. And this immersion offers a profound opportunity for rest, because it allows the mind to release control, surrender to rhythm, and experience the quiet continuity of the universe, a continuity that reassures, supports, and soothes, night after night, as the Milky Way slowly turns above us, expansive, patient, and endlessly calm. As we turn our attention to the dark lanes woven through the Milky Way's disk, we encounter the subtle beauty of interstellar dust, a quiet, almost imperceptible component that both conceals and reveals, shaping the galaxy's appearance without demanding notice. And these dark lanes, threading between the luminous bands of stars, create contrast that enhances depth, guiding the eye along gentle curves and inviting the mind to wander slowly, without urgency, tracing pathways that suggest both continuity and mystery. And though dust may obscure distant stars, it does so softly, diffusing light rather than blocking it harshly, creating a sense of calm rather than disruption. And this interplay of light and shadow mirrors natural rhythms on Earth, where day gives way to night, and silence punctuates sound, offering a template for rest, reflection, and observation. And within these dark lanes, vast molecular clouds drift, composed of gas and dust that will, over millions of years, collapse to form new stars. And this slow, patient process of creation is comforting, because it demonstrates that growth and change occur continuously yet gently, without abrupt disturbance. And as we imagine these clouds shifting imperceptibly, molding the next generation of stars, we sense the quiet rhythm of the galaxy. A rhythm that does not demand participation, yet includes us naturally, as our sun and planetary system are part of this ongoing cycle, carried along without effort. And this understanding fosters a sense of belonging, because it situates human life within a system that operates predictably, reliably, and without chaos, allowing the mind to rest in recognition of order and continuity. And the dust also plays a protective role, absorbing energy, regulating light, and shaping the evolution of stars and planets, a silent influence that is critical yet unobtrusive. And this subtle guidance parallels the hidden processes that maintain equilibrium in our own lives, reminding us that much of what sustains us occurs quietly, without notice. And as we observe these interstellar features through telescopes, whether invisible, infrared, or radio wavelengths, we expand our perception without altering the calm nature of the galaxy, because each observation is a patient accumulation of information gathered over years and decades. And this slow accumulation mirrors the mind's gradual settling into rest, as awareness deepens without rush, allowing understanding to emerge gently. And within the dark lanes, regions of star formation often glow faintly with nascent energy, a soft luminescence hinting at the life that will emerge. Yet these glows are subtle, never overwhelming, offering fascination without stimulation. And the contrast between dark and light in the Milky Way encourages visual meditation, as the eye follows the delicate balance, tracing patterns that shift imperceptibly over time, reinforcing the idea that beauty and order can exist without abruptness. And as we consider the broader scale of the disk, the dark lanes serve as markers of structure, guiding our understanding of spiral arms, density waves, and the distribution of matter. Yet they do so gently, providing information without imposing stress. And this manner of revealing complexity slowly is mirrored in restful cognition, where the mind can explore intricate patterns without becoming overwhelmed. And as clouds of dust coalesce and fragment, they produce stars in cycles that repeat across millions of years. And these cycles are predictable, not chaotic, offering a model for thinking about life, growth, and transformation as processes that unfold steadily rather than urgently. And just as the Milky Way's dark lanes carve quiet paths through the luminous disk, our thoughts can find channels through awareness, moving gently rather than rushing. And the balance of obscured and visible regions illustrates how presence and absence coexist harmoniously, a lesson for mental calmness, because it suggests that not all knowledge must be present at once for understanding to emerge. And as we imagine tracing these dark lanes across the sky, moving our attention slowly from one obscured region to the next, a meditative effect arises, where observation itself becomes soothing, guiding focus in a gentle rhythm. And this rhythm mirrors the rotation of the galaxy, slow, steady, and unhurried, carrying billions of stars along predictable paths. And as we expand our awareness further, we realize that dust is not merely obstruction, but facilitator, enabling star formation, shaping planetary systems, and maintaining galactic equilibrium. And this quiet facilitation resonates with the mind's need for support, showing that critical processes can operate without drama. And as the Milky Way turns imperceptibly above us, dark lanes threading through its glowing disk remind us that subtlety, patience, and quiet guidance are as essential as light, that growth can occur without urgency, and that vast systems, including our own galaxy and consciousness, achieve harmony through gentle, consistent processes. And this recognition allows the mind to relax fully, appreciating continuity, structure, and calm, while drifting gently toward rest, carried along in the quiet rhythm of the universe. As we move our focus from the interplay of dust and light within the Milky Way's disk to the vast halo that surrounds it, we enter a region that is at once expansive and subtle, a quiet domain where stars, globular clusters, and dark matter drift in slow, elliptical orbits, forming a sphere of gentle influence that extends far beyond the luminous plane. And this halo, though sparsely populated compared to the dense disk, provides a stabilizing backdrop for the galaxy, demonstrating that even in emptiness, there is structure, and structure offers reassurance, because it suggests continuity and order in the midst of apparent void. And the halo's stars, often ancient and dim, move with a calm regularity, their slow orbits taking them far above and below the disk and back again, completing cycles that span millions of years. And this immense timescale is soothing, because it dwarfs urgency and encourages a mindset attuned to patience and persistence. And within the halo reside globular clusters, tightly bound collections of hundreds of thousands of stars, orbiting silently and steadily, and their dense organization contrasts with the surrounding sparsity, illustrating balance through variation, where concentrated pockets of light coexist peacefully with vast, empty spaces. And this balance is emotionally comforting, because it mirrors the natural interplay of activity and rest, presence and absence, engagement and reflection. And as we imagine the motion of these clusters, rotating and drifting in their own quiet orbits, a sense of rhythm emerges, a pattern that is complex yet non-threatening, intricate yet harmonious. And this perception allows the mind to slow, to trace gentle trajectories without effort. And embedded within the halo is the influence of dark matter, an invisible presence whose mass shapes the galaxy's rotation and stability. And though it cannot be seen directly, its effects are measurable and reliable, offering a profound lesson about unseen support, that much of what maintains order operates quietly, without dramatic display. And this lesson aligns with the psychology of rest, because it reassures the mind that stability can exist, even when not immediately apparent. And as we consider the halo in relation to the disk and central core, it becomes clear that the Milky Way is a system of layered influence, each component contributing to the overall structure in a way that is orderly, predictable, and patient. And this layered complexity mirrors the human mind, where conscious thought, subconscious processing, and instinctive patterns interact gently, each layer supporting the others without interference. And as we visualize stars drifting through the halo, some on elongated orbits, others in gentle loops, a sense of depth and dimensionality emerges, reminding us that perspective is crucial, that distance does not diminish connection, and that even regions that seem sparse or remote play an integral role in the stability of the whole. And this realization fosters calm, because it reassures that all components, whether active or quiet, near or far, contribute meaningfully without demanding immediate attention. And as globular clusters orbit the galaxy, their stars age and evolve over billions of years, their light a steady presence, a gentle reminder of continuity and persistence. And the halo's structure, though less immediately visible than the disk, is essential for the long-term coherence of the Milky Way, reinforcing the idea that calm, slow processes maintain harmony over time. And this understanding translates naturally to human thought, suggesting that patience, subtle effort, and quiet observation are sufficient to support complex systems, whether galactic or personal. And as we imagine looking out from Earth into this halo, the faint stars appear as distant points of light, yet their influence is real, guiding motions, preserving stability, and shaping interactions within the galaxy. And this duality of invisibility and impact is calming, because it demonstrates that presence does not require attention, and that essential structures can operate silently, reliably, and without disruption. And the halo also serves as a repository of the Milky Way's ancient history, containing some of the oldest stars in the galaxy, whose ages trace back to its earliest formation. And reflecting on this longevity fosters perspective, because it situates human life within a continuum far larger than immediate concerns, and continuity over immense timescales offers reassurance, illustrating that systems endure through change, and that the slow rhythm of the universe continues regardless of momentary events. and as we imagine these ancient stars moving in their patient orbits, a sense of temporal calm arises, a recognition that time can stretch, fold, and flow without urgency, and that processes of growth, evolution, and balance do not require rush or drama. And within this vast, quiet halo, the Milky Way demonstrates the interplay of order, persistence, and subtle guidance, providing a model for mental stillness, where observation, reflection, and trust in long-term patterns replace agitation and restlessness. And by holding this image in the mind, one can feel embedded in a system that is both immense and gentle, where every component, visible or unseen, contributes to harmony, and where calm motion, subtle structure, and continuity create a landscape that nurtures reflection, patience, and deep, unhurried rest, night after night, as the Milky Way rotates slowly, carrying its stars and clusters along invisible pathways that stretch across light years, unseen yet dependable. A quiet rhythm for the mind to follow, a cosmic lullaby that continues without interruption, inviting consciousness to settle, drift, and rest within its expansive, enduring embrace. Beyond the immediate plane of the Milky Way's disk and the encompassing halo lies the vast expanse of the galaxy's outer regions, where stars become increasingly sparse and the presence of interstellar matter diminishes gradually. Yet even in this seeming emptiness, the galaxy maintains coherence, and this sparse, tranquil region contributes to a profound sense of calm, because it demonstrates that stability does not require density, that harmony can exist even when elements are distant and scattered. And as we imagine stars in the outer reaches orbiting the galactic center in slow, elliptical paths, their motion appears almost ethereal, gentle enough to be almost imperceptible on human timescales, yet persistent, reliable, and enduring. And this persistence without urgency mirrors the ideal state of mind before sleep, where continuity exists without pressure, and where the mind can drift along paths of thought without effort or concern. And within these outer regions, globular clusters appear as dense pockets of stars, ancient and stable, moving quietly in their orbits, often taking hundreds of millions of years to complete a single revolution. And this slow, deliberate motion fosters a sense of timelessness, helping listeners to release fixation on immediate concerns and expand awareness into longer scales, where patience is natural and rapid change is unnecessary. And as we consider the presence of dark matter throughout these outer regions, invisible yet shaping motion, a sense of invisible support emerges, reminding us that structure and guidance often operate quietly, without spectacle, and that influence can be profound, even when imperceptible. And this recognition is deeply reassuring, because it parallels human experience. Often the most stabilizing forces in life are unseen, operating in the background, allowing processes to unfold smoothly, without demand or interruption. And as we expand our view across the galactic outskirts, we notice the interaction between the disk, halo, and outer stars, a delicate gravitational interplay that maintains overall coherence, yet occurs without turbulence or abrupt disruption. And this gentle coordination reinforces the idea that even complex systems can function with calm precision. And the outer stars, though dim and far from the bustling inner regions, contribute to the galaxy's shape and rotation, illustrating that every element, regardless of prominence or visibility, has a role in maintaining balance. And this recognition encourages mental relaxation, because it validates the notion that quiet participation is sufficient, that one's presence matters, even without overt action. And as the Milky Way rotates slowly, carrying these distant stars along invisible paths, the mind can imagine being carried similarly, drifting effortlessly along a slow, steady course, enveloped in a vast structure that moves without effort, yet maintains order. And as we consider the distances involved, spanning tens of thousands of light years, the sheer scale promotes perspective, allowing human concerns to settle into proportion, replaced by a broader awareness of continuity, rhythm, and endurance. And the outer regions also provide a protective buffer for the inner galaxy, absorbing gravitational perturbations, mitigating external influences, and contributing to the long-term stability of the system. And this protective function, operating quietly and invisibly, mirrors the ways in which unseen structures in life maintain order and security without drawing attention. And as we visualize these outer stars, sparse yet coordinated, each following its own orbit yet integrated into the whole, a sense of interconnectedness emerges, illustrating that even dispersed elements can function as part of a unified system. And this interconnectedness is calming, because it demonstrates that coherence does not require proximity, intensity, or immediate interaction. And as our imagination traces the faint light of distant stars, some visible only with telescopes, others shining softly through dark matter, we perceive a universe that is expansive yet gentle, immense yet unhurried, a system where motion, structure, and balance coexist seamlessly. And this perception encourages the mind to adopt a similar rhythm, slowing thought, tracing gentle mental pathways, and recognizing that calm coordination is possible even amidst vast complexity. And as we reflect on the outer Milky Way, we realize that the galaxy's edges are not barren or empty, but regions of subtle influence, quiet stability, and patient guidance, supporting the motions and structure of the inner disk and halo, while operating in a state of slow, gentle rhythm. And this awareness translates naturally into a meditative, restful state, because it shows that systems function best when elements are allowed to follow predictable paths, when influence is steady rather than forceful, and when continuity is valued over urgency. And as we let this image expand in the mind, imagining the outer stars drifting through space in silent harmony, the galaxy becomes a model for rest itself, a vast, patient, interconnected system moving effortlessly, carrying all within it along predetermined, gentle paths, offering reassurance, trust, and the serene rhythm of the universe as a guide for deep, unhurried contemplation, and ultimately, a cosmic environment in which the mind can drift freely, released from concern, cradled by the quiet rotation, gentle coordination, and enduring stability of the Milky Way, night after night, across billions of years, an endless lullaby of light, motion, and calm. As we shift focus from the broad structure of the Milky Way's disk and halo to the intricate processes occurring within its spiral arms, we enter a realm of quiet, continuous creation, where gas and dust clouds slowly compress under gravity, forming new stars over millions of years. And this process, though immensely powerful on a physical scale, unfolds with such patience that it can be perceived as gentle, almost imperceptible. And this gentle rhythm is calming, because it demonstrates that creation does not require urgency or force, but emerges naturally through time and balance. And within these spiral arms, vast molecular clouds drift, diffuse yet structured, shaping regions of potential without demanding immediate action. And this latent potential offers a lesson in patience, showing that energy and possibility exist even without immediate manifestation. And as stars are born from these clouds, they do so gradually, gathering mass slowly, igniting fusion only after long periods of compression. And this delayed emergence mirrors processes in life, where growth and transformation often occur incrementally, without drama, and yet result in remarkable outcomes. And as we imagine these nascent stars glowing softly in distant arms, illuminating surrounding gas in subtle hues, the mind can trace their gentle influence without strain, noticing patterns, flows, and connections. And this act of observation encourages reflective calm, because it emphasizes patience, persistence, and order rather than sudden spectacle. And the young stars, often clustered in open formations, move in coordinated orbits, dictated by the galaxy's overall gravitational field, their motion smooth and predictable, creating a sense of rhythm, a cosmic cadence that can be mirrored in thought, allowing mental patterns to flow without conflict. And as these stars evolve, some will eventually expand into red giants, others will end in supernovae. Yet even these dramatic endpoints are absorbed by the surrounding medium with minimal disruption to the larger system, reinforcing the theme that even change, when integrated into a balanced structure, does not threaten stability, and this understanding encourages trust, calm, and mental release, because it demonstrates that transitions and endings can occur naturally without chaos. And as we consider the interplay of gas, dust, and stars within spiral arms, we notice that density waves subtly guide motion, compressing matter here and stretching it there, creating order without rigidity. And this balance between guidance and freedom is reassuring, because it reflects how large systems achieve stability through gentle influence rather than force. And in this environment, star clusters, nebulae, and interstellar clouds coexist in harmony, each contributing to the ongoing rhythm without interference. And this coexistence highlights the possibility of unity within diversity, an important lesson for mental calmness, showing that multiple processes can operate simultaneously without creating conflict or tension. And as we visualize the faint glow of emission nebulae, where hydrogen gas fluoresces under the influence of young, hot stars, the mind can settle on soft, continuous light rather than sharp contrasts, tracing patterns of illumination that flow naturally along the spiral arms. And this visual rhythm promotes restfulness, because it aligns with the brain's preference for gradual, predictable stimuli, avoiding abruptness or tension. And the spiral arms themselves are not fixed, they are density patterns through which stars pass, creating a sense of motion without chaos, as each star drifts along its orbit, moving into, through, and out of denser regions in a smooth cycle. And this gentle migration demonstrates that change and movement do not require disruption, a concept that resonates with the natural flow of consciousness, allowing thoughts and attention to move without force. And as massive clouds continue to form stars, while older stars evolve and die, the arms maintain equilibrium, showing how complex interactions can produce stability when processes follow consistent principles. And this principle encourages mental ease, because it demonstrates that complexity need not equal stress. And as we expand our awareness to include the faint infrared glow of dust heated by young stars, the interplay of light and shadow offers a soft, continuous visual field, enhancing the perception of depth, distance, and three-dimensionality. And this depth fosters contemplative relaxation, because the mind is invited to wander gently through layers of observation, tracing pathways without rushing. And within these arms, supernova remnants, planetary nebulae, and protostellar jets punctuate the environment with gentle markers of evolution, yet their presence is integrated smoothly into the larger system, reinforcing the idea that even significant events can coexist peacefully with ongoing processes. And as we imagine drifting along these spiral arms, surrounded by slowly rotating stars, glowing clouds, and whispering dust lanes, the sense of being carried by a vast, coordinated system emerges, a sensation of effortless motion and quiet harmony. And this awareness allows consciousness to relax, to release the need for control, and to float within the natural rhythm of creation. And ultimately, the spiral arms of the Milky Way offer a model for patient, continuous, balanced flow, demonstrating that growth, motion, and transformation can coexist peacefully, and that the universe, in its gentle, persistent rotation, provides a backdrop of calm, order, and support, night after night, carrying all within it along predictable, gentle paths, a cosmic lullaby that guides the mind toward deep, unhurried rest. As we turn our attention from the dynamic spiral arms to the subtle, pervasive influence of interstellar gas throughout the Milky Way, we begin to appreciate a component of the galaxy that is often overlooked yet profoundly essential. Because gas, though diffuse and invisible to the naked eye, shapes the formation of stars, regulates temperature, and mediates motion across vast distances. And this quiet influence offers a lesson in subtlety and patience, demonstrating that the most significant effects often arise without fanfare or immediate visibility. And as clouds of hydrogen, helium, and trace elements drift slowly through the galactic plane, guided by gravity and pressure gradients, they create regions of varying density that influence the orbits of stars, the compression of matter, and the slow emergence of new stellar systems. And this gradual orchestration is calming, because it shows that systems can maintain balance through soft guidance rather than abrupt control. And as we imagine these gas clouds drifting imperceptibly over millions of years, shaping nascent stars and gently interacting with their surroundings, a sense of timeless rhythm emerges, a pattern of cause and effect that operates beyond human urgency, reminding the mind that processes can unfold patiently without force. And within these clouds, dense pockets gradually collapse under their own gravity, forming protostars that will eventually ignite. Yet this ignition does not happen suddenly, but is preceded by eons of subtle motion, and this slow birth mirrors natural processes on both cosmic and human scales, encouraging a sense of trust in gradual development, growth, and maturation. And as stars emerge, they heat surrounding gas, creating soft emissions that glow faintly across light years, offering gentle illumination that highlights patterns without creating overwhelming brightness. And this diffuse, ambient light provides a visual rhythm that supports observation without tension, encouraging the mind to trace paths, notice connections, and rest within a continuous, flowing environment. And the interplay of gas with magnetic fields adds another layer of coordination, as charged particles move along lines of force, shaping clouds and influencing stellar motion in a manner that is invisible yet persistent, reinforcing the theme that subtle influences sustain balance across immense systems. And as cosmic rays and shock waves propagate through these regions, their energy is absorbed and diffused by gas, again illustrating that even dynamic processes are moderated by the environment, producing stability rather than chaos. And this moderation offers a model for mental calmness, showing that change and energy can exist without disruption, that pressure and activity can coexist with equilibrium, and that natural systems are inherently resilient when guided by consistent principles. And as we expand our view to include the interactions of multiple gas clouds across the Milky Way, a sense of continuous flow emerges, where matter drifts, compresses, heats, cools, and reforms in cycles that repeat across millions of years, a gentle, almost imperceptible dance that maintains the galaxy's structure and supports the ongoing process of star formation. And this cyclical nature reinforces the mind's need for rhythm and continuity, showing that life and change can progress without abruptness. And as we observe the faint glows of emission nebulae, reflection nebulae, and dark clouds silhouetted against starlight, the interplay of light and shadow invites a slow, meditative attention, guiding awareness along flowing contours rather than sharp edges. And this attention mirrors the mind's optimal resting state, where observation is gentle, curiosity is patient, and thought moves without pressure. And within these vast gaseous regions, turbulence exists on small scales, yet it is absorbed, diffused, and integrated into larger flows, demonstrating that even apparent disorder can be harmonized within a stable framework. And this harmonization provides reassurance, because it shows that systems can accommodate variability without losing coherence. And as we imagine tracing the pathways of gas through the spiral arms and halo, following the subtle currents that shape stellar birth, a sense of being carried by a quiet, intelligent rhythm emerges, where movement occurs without effort, and influence is persistent without intrusion. And this perception encourages mental surrender, allowing consciousness to float along the gentle currents of thought, observation, and reflection, untroubled by urgency or distraction. And ultimately, interstellar gas within the Milky Way offers a model for calm, subtle, and patient operation, demonstrating that even processes that are diffuse, invisible, or gradual can sustain structure, enable creation, and guide motion. And as the galaxy continues its silent rotation, carrying gas, stars, and dust along slow, predictable paths, the mind can relax into this rhythm, absorbing the sense of enduring stability, subtle guidance, and continuous, gentle flow, drifting peacefully within the universe's expansive, patient embrace, night after night, across uncountable light years. a cosmic lullaby of creation, balance, and calm. Turning now from the diffuse interstellar gas to the luminous nebulae scattered throughout the Milky Way, we enter a domain where creation is both visible and serene, where glowing clouds of ionized gas, energized by nearby young stars, form shapes of incredible variety, soft colors, and subtle gradients, and these nebulae, often photographed in deep space images as wisps of pink, red, and blue, reveal a universe in which energy flows gently through space, illuminating matter without urgency, without sudden eruption, and this illumination provides a soothing visual rhythm, because it is continuous, flowing, and predictable, allowing the mind to follow paths of light that curve, twist, and diffuse, inviting attention without strain. And as we consider the role of these nebulae, we recognize them as the wombs of stars, regions where gravity slowly gathers material, allowing the accumulation of mass over millions of years before nuclear fusion ignites. And this gradual formation reinforces patience, persistence, and the beauty of slow, incremental change. And as some nebulae reflect the light of nearby stars, while others emit light themselves due to ionization, they create a gentle interplay of reflection and emission, suggesting that influence can be both active and passive, direct and indirect, and that both modes coexist harmoniously within a larger system. And this duality mirrors the rhythms of human thought, where observation, contemplation, and subtle action all contribute to ongoing processes without haste. And within these nebulae, turbulence exists in the form of localized flows, jets, and shocks. Yet these movements are absorbed and integrated into the larger cloud structure, maintaining coherence and balance. And this absorption demonstrates that even dynamic energy can exist without chaos, a lesson that resonates with the need for mental calmness and adaptability, showing that forces can be powerful yet contained, dynamic yet stabilizing. And as we visualize the glowing filaments of planetary nebulae, remnants of dying stars, slowly shedding their outer layers, we perceive endings that are gentle, gradual, and aesthetically beautiful, rather than abrupt or violent. And this perception fosters emotional ease, because it suggests that change and mortality can occur gracefully, without disruption to the surrounding environment. And as we imagine drifting past emission nebulae like the Orion Nebula, the Lagoon Nebula, or the Eagle Nebula, their glowing cores and diffuse edges create pathways for the eye and mind to follow, soft trails of light that encourage slow, reflective observation. And the variations in density, temperature, and color throughout these clouds provide subtle contrasts that stimulate awareness without tension, promoting relaxation, curiosity, and a meditative sense of flow. And as stars form within these nebulae, they begin to emit their own light, gradually dispersing the surrounding cloud. And this process is incremental and balanced, illustrating that new beginnings often emerge gently from pre-existing structures, a principle that can be applied to life, thought, and personal growth. And the nebulae also interact with the larger galactic environment, affected by spiral density waves, magnetic fields, and radiation from neighboring stars. Yet these influences are gradual and integrated, producing changes that enhance structure without destabilizing it. And this integrated interaction demonstrates that complexity can coexist with calm, that multiple forces can act simultaneously yet harmoniously. And as we visualize the nebulae drifting slowly within the spiral arms, rotating with the galaxy itself, their motion reinforces the rhythm of the Milky Way, a silent cadence that moves billions of stars, clouds, and gas along predictable paths. And this rhythm can be mirrored within the mind, encouraging slow, deliberate breathing, measured thought, and gentle observation, a reflection of the galaxy's unhurried continuity. And as supernovae occasionally occur within these nebulae, the energy released, though dramatic locally, is absorbed and dispersed by surrounding gas and dust, creating new structures and opportunities for star formation without compromising stability. And this cycle of creation and destruction, integrated into a larger order, teaches that endings and beginnings are natural, harmonious, and reassuring rather than frightening. And as our attention moves from one nebula to another, we notice patterns of light, shadow, and color that guide awareness along meandering pathways, a meditative exercise that mirrors the gentle flow of consciousness, encouraging a state of calm, curiosity, and restful engagement. And as we expand this visualization to include countless nebulae across the Milky Way, glowing softly along spiral arms in halos, and even at the edges of the disk, a sense of vast, interconnected continuity emerges, revealing a universe in which matter moves, evolves, and interacts without haste, violence, or disruption. And this understanding nurtures the mind's capacity for patience, trust, and release, showing that life, thought, and motion can coexist in balance. And ultimately, the luminous nebulae of the Milky Way provide a cosmic example of creation unfolding with grace, light emerging from darkness, energy flowing quietly, and complex processes integrating seamlessly into a larger system, a model for mental and emotional rest, where attention, awareness, and imagination drift freely, carried along by the galaxy's enduring, gentle, and unhurried rhythm, night after night, across billions of years, a luminous lullaby for the mind, a calm, expansive embrace of creation, continuity, and cosmic balance, shifting focus from the luminous nebulae to the countless star clusters scattered throughout the Milky Way. We encounter regions of concentrated stellar beauty, where hundreds, thousands, or even millions of stars move together in coordinated orbits, forming patterns of order, light, and subtle motion. And these clusters, whether dense globular clusters in the halo or looser open clusters within the disk, provide a striking example of harmony within multiplicity, because each star follows a path dictated by gravity, interacting with neighbors yet avoiding collision, maintaining a balance that is simultaneously intricate and calming. And as we imagine drifting slowly among these stars, we notice the interplay of brightness, color, and position, a soft choreography that encourages the mind to trace gentle arcs, notice relationships without urgency, and relax into observation. And globular clusters, often containing the oldest stars in the galaxy, glow with a faint, steady light, a reminder of the long-term continuity of the Milky Way. And this ancient presence evokes a sense of patience, endurance, and perspective, showing that stability can persist across billions of years, while processes of change and evolution continue quietly within the same structure. And the stars within these clusters, though densely packed, coexist peacefully, moving in orbits shaped by the collective gravitational field. And this collective motion demonstrates that complexity can exist without chaos, that order emerges naturally from interaction, and that even highly concentrated systems can maintain calm, a principle that resonates with human experience, offering a model for relationships, communities, and mental patterns, where multiple elements operate simultaneously in harmony, without overwhelming one another. And as we imagine observing open clusters, younger and more loosely arranged, we notice gentle variations in density and brightness, stars scattered across a region of space, forming ephemeral patterns that will gradually disperse over millions of years. Yet even as these stars drift apart, they remain part of the galaxy's larger structure, integrated into its rotation. And this gradual dispersion offers reassurance, because it demonstrates that transitions, movement, and change can occur naturally, without abruptness. And within the clusters, stars evolve through life cycles at different rates, some maturing into red giants, others exploding as supernovae. Yet these processes are absorbed and balanced by the cluster and its surroundings, illustrating that endings and beginnings can coexist harmoniously, a model for understanding cycles of life, thought, and growth. And as we trace the light of cluster stars, noting subtle differences in color from cool reds to hot blues, we become aware of the diversity of conditions, energies, and ages. And this diversity, integrated into a cohesive whole, provides a sense of complexity without disorder, inviting the mind to appreciate variety, while remaining grounded in structure. And as clusters orbit the galactic center, They participate in the overall motion of the Milky Way, their paths smooth and predictable over long timescales, reinforcing the idea that even within crowded or dense systems, rhythm, coordination, and balance prevail, and this rhythm can be mirrored within mental states, allowing thoughts, emotions, and attention to flow without conflict or tension. And as we visualize glimmering clusters within dark regions of the galactic disk, or the more sparse halo, the contrast between concentrated light and surrounding emptiness encourages gentle scanning of space, soft observation, and relaxed focus, promoting meditation, calm reflection, and mental rest. And within each cluster, the interaction of stellar winds, radiation, and gravity creates a subtle, continuous exchange of energy, matter, and momentum. Yet this energy is contained, structured, and predictable, demonstrating that even active processes can occur without chaos, and this insight provides reassurance, showing that life, growth, and activity can unfold harmoniously within a stable framework. And as we drift across multiple clusters, imagining traveling slowly from one to another, noticing the shift in density, age, and motion, a sense of continuity and connectivity emerges, illustrating that each localized system contributes to the galaxy's overall structure, while maintaining its own balance. And this layered understanding encourages trust, calm, and patience, because it shows that integration, coordination, and harmony naturally emerge from the interaction of independent components. And as we expand this awareness to include thousands of clusters across the Milky Way, both visible and unseen, a perception of vast, interconnected rhythm arises, where movement, evolution, and creation coexist with stability, structure, and predictability, and this perception resonates with the mind's need for a guiding, gentle cadence, a sense that even amidst apparent complexity, there is order, continuity, and reliability. And ultimately, star clusters within the Milky Way serve as models of balanced coexistence, patient evolution, and integrated motion, offering a cosmic template for rest, reflection, and meditative awareness, allowing consciousness to drift slowly, guided by the gentle rhythm of stellar orbits, the soft glow of countless lights, and the enduring harmony of a galaxy in quiet rotation, night after night, across billions of years, a luminous, soothing lullaby for the mind, body, and spirit. As we turn our attention from the clustered stars to the vast, mysterious dark matter that envelops the Milky Way, we begin to sense a component of the galaxy that is invisible yet indispensable, a presence whose effects are profound, guiding the rotation, stability, and overall structure of the galaxy without ever revealing itself directly to the eye. And this invisible force, pervasive and constant, offers a profound lesson in subtlety and trust, because it reminds us that the most critical supports often operate quietly, without drama, spectacle, or immediate acknowledgement. And as we imagine dark matter forming an extended halo around the galaxy, stretching far beyond the visible disk and halo, we realize that its gravitational influence binds stars, gas, and clusters together, maintaining equilibrium across distances so vast that human perception cannot easily comprehend them. And this vast, gentle anchoring evokes a sense of calm, because it illustrates that order and coherence do not require constant monitoring or forceful intervention, but can emerge naturally from the presence of steady, reliable forces. And within this framework, visible stars move along orbits, determined in part by the unseen mass of dark matter, their paths smooth, predictable, and coherent, demonstrating that even in the presence of unseen influences, motion can be graceful, balanced, and harmonious. And this realization resonates deeply with the mind, because it parallels the psychological truth that unseen support structures, whether relationships, systems, or natural processes, maintain stability without demanding awareness or attention. And as we expand our awareness further, imagining the Milky Way rotating within its dark matter halo, with billions of stars, clouds, and clusters moving along their prescribed paths, a sense of quiet orchestration emerges, where complexity, motion, and interaction coexist seamlessly within a system of enduring structure. and this orchestration promotes mental ease, showing that order and coherence arise naturally when elements interact under consistent principles, even if some components are invisible or mysterious. And the concept of dark matter also highlights the importance of trust in the unseen, that much of what maintains balance and rhythm in the universe operates beyond immediate perception. And this idea encourages relaxation, because it allows the mind to release the need for constant observation or control, surrendering to the knowledge that processes can unfold harmoniously without supervision. And as we contemplate how dark matter stabilizes spiral arms, prevents excessive fragmentation, and preserves the galaxy's rotation curve, we sense a quiet, persistent rhythm underpinning the visible structures, a rhythm that is slow, steady, and reliable. And this steady cadence can be mirrored in breathing, thought, and awareness, guiding consciousness toward calm, gentle reflection. And as we imagine clusters and clouds moving within this stabilizing halo, experiencing gravity's pull from visible and invisible mass alike, we recognize a system in which energy, motion, and matter interact without turbulence or chaos, and this balance offers reassurance, illustrating that harmony can be maintained even in the presence of immense complexity and unseen influence. And as we consider the scale of dark matter's influence, extending tens of thousands of light years beyond the disk, the immensity promotes perspective, encouraging the mind to relax, widen focus, and release attachment to immediate concerns, knowing that the universe itself operates with patience, consistency, and care. And within this context, the interaction between ordinary matter and dark matter produces subtle dynamical effects, from the shaping of stellar orbits to the slow migration of clusters, and the gentle guidance of gas clouds. Yet all of these processes occur in a rhythm so gradual that the galaxy appears calm, unified, and harmonious, and this perception reinforces the mind's need for gentle guidance, trust, and slow, steady flow, showing that systems can achieve balance through quiet, pervasive forces rather than abrupt, forceful interventions. And as we imagine drifting through this extended halo, feeling the pull of unseen mass shaping our path without turbulence, a sense of safety emerges, a profound reassurance that the universe is held together by gentle, consistent forces, and that motion, interaction, and evolution can proceed without threat or disruption. And as stars, nebulae, and clusters glide along predictable paths, carried by the unseen hand of dark matter, we recognize that continuity and coherence emerge naturally from consistent structure, even when many elements remain hidden from view. And this recognition encourages a state of mental rest, trust, and calm observation, because it shows that one need not see every influence to feel secure or to move harmoniously. And as the Milky Way rotates, with its billions of stars cradled within the stabilizing embrace of dark matter, the mind can relax into this rhythm, sensing continuity, support, and persistent, gentle guidance. And ultimately, dark matter provides an unseen scaffold for the galaxy, a quiet, omnipresent force that ensures balance, stability, and enduring harmony, a cosmic metaphor for the invisible supports in life, thought, and the mind, offering a deep, unhurried lullaby of structure, trust, and serene motion, night after night, across billions of light years, allowing consciousness to drift effortlessly within the calm, protective, and infinite rhythm of the universe. Turning now from the invisible scaffolding of dark matter to the rhythmic dance of the Milky Way's rotation, we begin to appreciate a movement so vast, slow, and steady that it transcends human perception, yet underpins the galaxy's structure, orchestrating the orbits of billions of stars, clusters, and gas clouds in a continuous, harmonious flow. And this rotation, proceeding at hundreds of kilometers per second across tens of thousands of light years, creates a gentle cosmic cadence, a rhythm so consistent and reliable that it offers a profound sense of calm, because it demonstrates that even in immense systems, motion can be steady, predictable, and inherently ordered. And as we imagine the Sun and its planetary system tracing their orbit around the galactic center, completing a full revolution in approximately 225 to 250 million years. The mind is invited to expand temporally, to consider scales far beyond daily concerns, and this expansion encourages mental release, because it places immediate worries in perspective, revealing them as transient within a larger, enduring rhythm. And the galaxy's rotation is not uniform. Stars closer to the center move more quickly than those in the outer disk, yet the differential motion is smooth, creating spiral density waves that guide the formation of arms, concentrate gas, and trigger gentle bursts of star formation. And this orchestration demonstrates that variation and complexity can coexist within harmony, a principle that resonates with the mind's need for balance, allowing thought and observation to flow without tension or disruption. And as we imagine following individual stars along these paths, tracing gentle arcs through space, we observe motion without chaos, a slow, elegant ballet in which each element contributes to collective stability. And this observation encourages reflective calm, because it shows that interaction, activity, and complexity need not threaten equilibrium, and within the rotation, interactions between stars, gas clouds, and clusters occur subtly, mediated by gravity and magnetic fields, producing tidal effects, compression regions, and occasional perturbations. Yet these interactions are absorbed gradually, integrated seamlessly into the larger system, and this gradual absorption offers reassurance, teaching that challenges and disruptions can be accommodated within structure without creating instability. And as we expand our perspective to the full disk, we see spiral arms gently winding, density waves passing through, stars being born and aging in synchrony with the galaxy's rotation. And this interplay of time, motion, and creation produces a pattern that is predictable yet endlessly fascinating. And this predictability fosters mental ease, because it suggests that systems, both cosmic and personal, can operate without constant intervention while remaining responsive and dynamic. And the rotation also maintains the alignment of star clusters, nebulae, and interstellar clouds, ensuring that these elements continue to interact in ways that promote star formation, structure, and energy flow. And this coordination encourages the mind to recognize patterns, relationships, and rhythm, cultivating awareness without agitation or strain. And as we imagine the entire Milky Way spinning slowly, carrying billions of stars, clouds, and unseen mass in a coordinated sweep, a sense of being cradled within vast, reliable motion emerges, a sensation of effortless participation in a grand, unhurried cycle. And this perception supports relaxation, because it allows consciousness to drift in harmony with steady, persistent rhythm, releasing control, tension, and anxiety. And as spiral arms rotate, gas clouds compress, stars form, and older stars drift outward, a gentle flow of creation, maturation, and dispersal continues, illustrating that life, growth, and change can coexist within a steady framework. And this realization mirrors the mind's natural tendency to process experiences, thoughts, and emotions gradually, without rush or force. And as we consider the differential rotation of the inner and outer disk, we observe that despite differences in speed, the system maintains cohesion, a reminder that diversity of motion and behavior can integrate harmoniously, supporting the idea that variation need not threaten stability. And as clusters, nebulae, and individual stars follow these smooth orbits, the continuous movement creates a visual and conceptual rhythm, a cosmic lullaby of steady arcs, soft light, and slow progression. And this rhythm can be internalized by the mind, guiding attention, thought, and emotion into a gentle cadence, promoting restfulness, mental clarity, and reflective calm. And even when encountering occasional perturbations, such as passing interstellar clouds, minor gravitational interactions, or supernovae, the overall rotation absorbs and integrates these events without chaos, illustrating resilience, adaptability, and the quiet power of structure. And as we imagine tracing the rotation from the galactic center to the distant outskirts, feeling the continuous sweep of matter, energy, and influence, a profound sense of connection emerges, linking individual existence to a vast, enduring cycle, and this connection provides comfort, perspective, and reassurance, showing that life and consciousness can align with steady, reliable rhythms, and ultimately, the rotation of the Milky Way offers a cosmic model for patience, continuity, and gentle motion, a pattern of enduring harmony in which complexity, activity, and structure coexist seamlessly, and by meditating on this rotation, the mind can drift effortlessly, immersed in a universe of calm, predictable, and expansive rhythm, night after night, across billions of years, a celestial lullaby that carries consciousness toward deep, unhurried rest, turning our attention from the grand sweep of the Milky Way's rotation to the subtle, yet profound influence of the galactic center. We encounter a region of immense power and quiet mystery, where a supermassive black hole, Sagittarius A, resides, anchoring the galaxy with a gravitational presence so dominant that it guides the orbits of stars, clusters, and gas clouds over thousands of light years, yet its influence, while profound, is imperceptible in daily observation. And this duality of immense power, combined with quiet subtlety, evokes a sense of calm, because it demonstrates that stability does not require overt activity or constant display. And as we imagine stars orbiting close to the central black hole, some moving at incredible speeds, their paths smooth, predictable, and governed by gravity, we sense a precise choreography, a celestial order in which extreme forces coexist with perfect balance. And this realization encourages mental ease, because it shows that even intense energy and potential disruption can be integrated harmoniously within a structured system. And surrounding Sagittarius A is a dense concentration of stars, gas, and dust, forming a bulging core that gradually transitions into the spiral disk. And this gradient from concentrated center to diffuse outskirts mirrors natural transitions, teaching that intensity can soften gradually, allowing movement and influence to extend without abruptness. And as stars orbit the center, some in tight elliptical paths, others tracing broader loops, the variety of motion demonstrates that diversity in behavior, speed, and trajectory can coexist without chaos, and this encourages reflective calm, because it suggests that multiple patterns and forces can integrate seamlessly, supporting coherence rather than tension. And the galactic center is also a site of occasional star formation, as dense clouds are compressed by gravitational forces, creating nascent stars that will eventually contribute to the galaxy's overall population. Yet this process unfolds over millions of years, patient, slow, and deliberate, illustrating that creation does not require urgency, and that immense energy can operate quietly, without disturbing surrounding order. And as we imagine tracing these young stars, orbiting within the bulge, their light softly illuminating surrounding clouds, we perceive a rhythm of emergence, growth, and gentle influence, a cycle of development that mirrors the mind's own need for gradual understanding, reflection, and calm processing. And the gravitational interactions in the core, including resonances between stars and clusters, create subtle waves and motions that ripple outward through the disk, influencing spiral arms and star formation patterns. Yet these effects are smooth, continuous, and integrated, reinforcing the idea that complex systems can function without turbulence or abrupt disturbance. And as we extend our visualization to include the distribution of gas and dust near the center, glowing faintly under the influence of young stars and energetic processes, a sense of ambient illumination emerges, guiding the eye and the mind along gentle arcs of light and shadow. And this visual rhythm supports mental relaxation, encouraging slow scanning, soft focus, and meditative observation. And even though the supermassive black hole represents extreme density and energy, its activity, such as occasional accretion flares, is rare and localized, allowing the galaxy's overall structure to remain stable. And this pattern demonstrates that extraordinary forces, when contained within structure, can coexist with calm and order, a lesson directly applicable to the mind, where intense thoughts or emotions can be acknowledged, integrated, and released without disruption. And surrounding the core, stars and clusters follow elliptical orbits that maintain long-term coherence, tracing paths that are predictable yet varied. And this balance between repetition and variation mirrors the natural patterns of breathing, thought, and awareness, offering a model for internal calm, where attention moves along steady rhythms without tension or effort. And as we imagine drifting through this central region, observing dense star fields, glowing gas, and slowly orbiting clusters, a sense of depth, history, and temporal scale emerges, showing that the galaxy's current structure is the product of billions of years of gentle accumulation, motion, and interaction. And this long-term perspective encourages patience, trust, and perspective, helping the mind release urgency and focus on broader, enduring patterns. And as we extend our awareness to include the influence of the bulge on surrounding spiral arms, halo stars, and even the outer disk, we perceive an intricate network of gravitational relationships, subtle flows, and continuous interactions, yet all occurring within a coherent, harmonious structure. And this perception nurtures reflective calm, because it demonstrates that systems can integrate complexity and motion without chaos, supporting the notion that the mind can process multiple streams of thought and emotion while remaining grounded, stable, and peaceful. And ultimately, the galactic center serves as both anchor and guide, a place of immense energy contained within structure, radiating influence quietly through space, creating patterns of motion, growth, and cohesion that extend across the Milky Way. And by meditating on this region, the mind can align with the galaxy's gentle, enduring rhythm, tracing orbits, observing slow transformations, and resting in the assurance that even immense forces, when balanced, support continuity, calm, and harmony, a cosmic lullaby of stability, patience, and expansive serenity, night after night, across billions of light years, guiding consciousness toward deep, unhurried rest. As we shift our focus from the concentrated intensity of the galactic center to the quiet, expansive regions of the Milky Way's halo, we encounter a realm that is both subtle and profound, a vast domain where stars, globular clusters, and unseen dark matter drift slowly in orbits that extend far beyond the luminous disk. And this halo, though sparsely populated, is essential for the galaxy's long-term stability, providing gravitational support, regulating motion, and serving as a reservoir of ancient stars that tell the story of the galaxy's earliest formation. And as we imagine drifting through this halo, observing faint stars moving along elongated, gentle paths, we sense a profound calm, because the timescales are immense, the motion unhurried, and the structure remarkably consistent, demonstrating that even across vast distances, order can persist without force or drama. And within this halo, globular clusters appear as tight knots of ancient stars, some older than 12 billion years, orbiting in predictable, patient patterns. Their presence a quiet testament to the continuity of cosmic history, and this continuity fosters perspective, showing that life, growth, and evolution occur over extended periods, where patience and consistency are more important than immediate results. And as we trace the orbits of these clusters, noting their slow precession and interaction with surrounding matter, a sense of rhythm emerges, a subtle cadence that echoes the galaxy's larger motion. And this cadence can be mirrored in breathing, thought, and awareness, promoting reflection, relaxation, and mental ease. And surrounding these clusters is an expansive field of diffuse stars, often faint, often overlooked, yet their combined mass contributes significantly to the gravitational balance of the halo, illustrating that even seemingly minor elements can have profound influence. And this principle resonates with the mind, showing that small, quiet, or invisible factors play essential roles in maintaining equilibrium. And as we imagine the motion of stars through the halo, some passing near the disk, others venturing far into the galactic outskirts, a sense of interconnectedness emerges, revealing that each trajectory, each orbit, each interaction contributes to the stability of the whole. And this recognition encourages trust, calm, and a feeling of safety, because it shows that systems are resilient, coordinated, and self-regulating, even in complexity. And as we expand our visualization to include the influence of dark matter within the halo, an invisible yet dominant component, we recognize that much of the halo's gravitational coherence is maintained by unseen forces, providing structure, rhythm, and support without ever appearing directly. And this unseen guidance is deeply reassuring, because it mirrors life experiences in which foundational support often exists quietly in the background, stabilizing and enabling without demanding attention. And as we drift past isolated halo stars, noting their faint glows, ancient ages, and subtle interactions with nearby clusters, a sense of timelessness arises, a perspective that transcends the immediacy of daily experience and allows consciousness to relax into broader, enduring rhythms. And within the halo, streams of stars, remnants of past mergers and interactions with smaller galaxies, weave through space in elongated patterns, tracing the history of cosmic collisions and slow integration. And this pattern of gentle, long-term assimilation highlights the galaxy's resilience, adaptability, and capacity to absorb change without disruption, teaching that even significant transformation can be gradual, integrated, and harmonious. And as we imagine tracing these stellar streams with the mind's eye, we notice their slow, fluid motion, the delicate interplay of gravity, inertia, and momentum, and the way they weave seamlessly through the halo's structure, a dance so subtle that it can be appreciated only over immense distances and timescales. And this subtlety fosters patience, reflection, and a meditative state, because it shows that significant motion can occur without turbulence, chaos, or urgency. And as we expand awareness to include the faint, extended influence of halo stars on the disk, clusters, and even spiral arms, a continuous, gentle network of interactions becomes apparent, demonstrating that the galaxy is not a set of isolated parts, but a cohesive, interconnected system in which every element, visible or unseen, contributes to the overall rhythm. And this perception encourages mental integration, showing that complexity, interaction, and multiplicity can coexist within balance, without strain or conflict. And as we drift further into the halo, imagining billions of years of slow motion, subtle evolution, and patient gravitational influence, a profound sense of calm emerges, a recognition that the universe itself moves gently, continuously, and reliably, providing a cosmic environment in which the mind can rest, observe, and flow with its rhythms. And ultimately, the Milky Way's halo offers a model of enduring stability, slow and deliberate motion, and interconnected harmony, a vast, quiet domain where stars, clusters, and unseen forces coexist seamlessly, guiding motion, supporting structure, and fostering calm reflection, a celestial lullaby of patience, continuity, and expansive serenity, night after night, across billions of light years, allowing consciousness to drift effortlessly within the galaxy's gentle embrace. Shifting our focus from the distant halo to the intricate and delicate motion of interstellar dust within the Milky Way, we encounter a component of the galaxy that, though seemingly minor, plays a critical role in shaping its appearance, regulating star formation, and subtly guiding the propagation of light across vast distances. And this interstellar dust, composed of tiny grains of carbon, silicates, and other elements, drifts slowly through space, forming dark lanes, diffuse clouds, and subtle filaments that weave between stars, nebulae, and clusters. And as we imagine observing these dust structures, we perceive patterns of shadow and light, gentle curves and flowing shapes that invite quiet attention, meditative observation, and mental relaxation, because their motion and distribution is smooth, gradual, and harmonious, illustrating that even minute particles can contribute meaningfully to the structure, rhythm, and balance of a system. And as interstellar dust interacts with starlight, it absorbs and scatters photons, reddening distant stars and creating soft, diffuse glows. And this interplay of light and shadow produces subtle gradients and textures that are visually calming, offering the mind gentle pathways for observation and imagination. and these dust clouds also provide the raw material for future stars and planetary systems, slowly collapsing under gravity to form dense cores that eventually ignite as new stars. And this patient, incremental process emphasizes that creation and transformation do not require urgency, but occur naturally over immense timescales, a principle that can be mirrored in the mind, fostering patience, reflective calm, and trust in gradual progress. And as we drift through these dusty regions, following the flow of material along spiral arms, tracing the contours of dark lanes against the brighter glow of surrounding stars, a sense of interconnectedness emerges, showing that each element, from the tiniest grain to the largest cluster, contributes to the galaxy's overall coherence. And this realization encourages a meditative state, because it demonstrates that complexity, diversity, and multiplicity can coexist within harmony, without tension, pressure, or conflict. And the motion of dust is also influenced by radiation pressure, magnetic fields, and stellar winds, yet these forces interact smoothly, integrating energy and matter without creating turbulence. And this integration offers reassurance, showing that even in the presence of multiple influences, systems can maintain balance, continuity, and gentle rhythm. And as interstellar dust drifts along the spiral arms, forming soft, winding filaments that trace the structure of the galaxy, we notice how shadows fall upon distant stars and nebulae, creating a dynamic, yet calm interplay of light and dark. And this interplay can guide the mind along pathways of observation, reflection, and relaxation, encouraging slow, deliberate scanning and awareness without urgency. And as we imagine following the path of a single dust cloud over millions of years, watching it compress, expand, and interact with surrounding gas, we perceive cycles of formation, evolution, and dispersion, illustrating that change, growth, and dissolution can coexist harmoniously within a stable framework. And this understanding translates naturally into a mental state of trust, patience, and serenity, because it shows that processes can unfold gradually without chaos or abrupt disruption. And within dense dust regions, protostars slowly emerge, surrounded by disks of material that may one day coalesce into planets. And this quiet, slow evolution offers a model for life, thought, and creativity, emphasizing that nurturing, preparation, and patience precede visible achievement. And as we extend our awareness to include diffuse dust spread throughout the disk, interacting subtly with radiation, magnetic fields, and gravity, a perception of continuous flow emerges, a gentle, pervasive rhythm that spans thousands of light years, supporting the galaxy's structure, facilitating star formation, and guiding light along predictable, harmonious paths. And this continuity nurtures mental ease, because it mirrors the mind's natural need for consistent, integrated flow in observation, thought, and emotion. And as we drift further, noticing the way dust threads through bright nebulae, outlines dark lanes across stellar regions, and integrates into the broader dynamics of the Milky Way, we sense the quiet orchestration of matter, light, and energy, a symphony of motion, formation, and influence that operates without haste, spectacle, or disruption. And this orchestration reinforces reflective calm, showing that subtlety, patience, and consistency can produce structure, beauty, and harmony, even in complex systems. And ultimately, interstellar dust within the Milky Way provides both material and visual guidance, a gentle presence that shapes stars, planets, and light while inviting the mind to slow, observe, and rest, tracing paths of shadow, glow, and subtle motion, participating in the galaxy's enduring, patient rhythm, and offering a cosmic lullaby of structure, flow, and calm, night after night, across billions of light years, a quiet, expansive embrace that encourages deep, unhurried contemplation and restful consciousness. Turning now from the delicate patterns of interstellar dust to the luminous and energetic phenomenon of supernova within the Milky Way, we enter a domain of transformation, renewal, and subtle cosmic rhythm, where massive stars, after millions or billions of years of quiet fusion, reach the end of their lives and explode in brilliant bursts of light and energy, scattering enriched material across space. And though these events are immensely powerful, they are rare on human timescales and, when observed from vast distances, unfold as gentle flashes within the galaxy's larger structure. And this perspective allows the mind to consider profound transformation without alarm, showing that even dramatic processes can be absorbed, integrated, and harmonized within a stable environment. And as we imagine tracing a supernova remnant, watching the expanding cloud of gas, dust, and energetic particles drift outward over tens of thousands of years, a sense of continuity emerges, because the dispersed material eventually contributes to the formation of new stars, planets, and even nebulae, illustrating the cycle of death, renewal, and creation that underpins the galaxy. And this cycle encourages reflective calm, because it demonstrates that endings are not destructive in isolation, but contribute to ongoing processes, supporting balance, growth, and future possibilities. And as we consider the fusion processes that power the progenitor stars, we recognize that immense energy is accumulated quietly over eons, slowly, incrementally, and predictably, until it reaches a threshold that triggers transformation. And this gradual buildup mirrors the natural rhythms of life, thought, and consciousness, showing that patience, consistent effort, and cumulative change lead to meaningful outcomes without urgency or force. And surrounding the supernova, gas and dust are compressed by the shock wave, forming subtle filaments and clumps that will eventually serve as nurseries for future stars, a gentle reminder that even explosive events can foster creation and harmony. And as we imagine drifting along these expanding clouds, tracing the curves, gradients, and diffuse glows, the mind is invited to follow paths of transformation with calm curiosity, observing change as a natural and integrated process, rather than a source of disruption. And as we expand our focus to include multiple supernova remnants across the Milky Way, scattered through spiral arms, halo, and disk, a pattern of intermittent, localized energy emerges, yet this energy is absorbed smoothly into the larger galactic environment, illustrating that isolated bursts of activity can coexist with ongoing stability. And this insight resonates with the mind, showing that brief moments of intensity, creativity, or change can exist within a broader, enduring calm, providing reassurance and a model for balanced perception. And the chemical enrichment resulting from supernovae, dispersing elements like carbon, oxygen, and iron into the interstellar medium, is crucial for the development of planets, life, and future stars. And this quiet legacy demonstrates that even singular, dramatic events contribute constructively over time, a principle that encourages trust in the slow unfolding of processes and the cumulative effects of effort, observation, and interaction. And as we imagine the light from a distant supernova, reaching the Earth after thousands of years, illuminating the sky briefly before fading, we perceive a gentle, transient glow, a reminder of impermanence coupled with enduring influence. And this perception fosters mental ease, encouraging awareness of fleeting moments without attachment, while recognizing their contribution to larger patterns. And the remnants themselves, often observed as faint, diffuse nebulae, provide soft gradients of color and texture, guiding attention along subtle curves and contours, promoting reflective calm and meditative observation. And as we follow these remnants across the galactic disk, noting their interactions with nearby clouds, star-forming regions, and magnetic fields, a sense of interconnectedness emerges, demonstrating that even seemingly isolated events ripple gently through the galaxy, influencing matter, motion, and energy in integrated, predictable ways. And this perception supports a mental state of trust, patience, and awareness, showing that actions, events, and change propagate gradually, harmoniously, and meaningfully, without sudden disruption. And as we expand our awareness to include thousands of supernovae that have occurred throughout the Milky Way over billions of years, their cumulative effect on galactic evolution becomes apparent, revealing a universe of transformation that is both constant and gentle, fostering new creation while maintaining coherence, rhythm, and structure, and ultimately, supernovae within the Milky Way serve as both agents of dramatic change and contributors to long-term harmony, offering a cosmic lesson in patience, transformation, and the integration of energy. Where endings and beginnings coexist, power is absorbed gradually, and all processes, even explosive ones, contribute to the steady, unhurried rhythm of the galaxy. And by meditating on these stellar deaths and rebirths, the mind can relax, observing change, flow, and continuity in a safe, expansive, and reassuring framework, drifting effortlessly within the calm, enduring, and transformative embrace of the cosmos. Night after night, across billions of light years, a luminous lullaby of creation, renewal, and serene continuity, shifting now from the energetic and transformative events of supernovae to the gentle yet pervasive presence of cosmic rays and interstellar radiation within the Milky Way. We encounter a subtle, invisible, and continuous phenomenon that flows through space, threading between stars, clusters, and nebulae. And while these energetic particles travel at near light speeds, their influence, though powerful over time, is diffused, integrated, and largely imperceptible at human scales. And this quiet, persistent flow offers a profound model of continuous energy, subtle influence, and gentle rhythm, because it shows that forces can operate steadily, invisibly, and harmoniously within complex systems, without creating immediate turbulence or alarm. And as we imagine cosmic rays drifting through interstellar clouds, encountering magnetic fields, dust, and gas, their paths are gently guided, deflected, and absorbed, producing diffuse effects that regulate chemical reactions, influence molecular clouds, and contribute to the ionization of the interstellar medium. And this gentle modulation demonstrates that even intense energy can exist within controlled, harmonious frameworks, a principle that mirrors the mind's need for calm, regulated attention and awareness. And as these rays propagate through the spiral arms, interacting with nebulae, star-forming regions, and older stellar remnants, they create subtle cycles of influence that are gradual, pervasive, and integrated, showing that ongoing processes can unfold without abruptness or disruption. And this realization fosters a sense of patience, trust, and perspective, encouraging the mind to observe, reflect, and relax within a continuum of gentle energy. And the interstellar radiation field, composed of electromagnetic waves from stars, nebulae, and remnants, bathes the galaxy in soft invisible light, guiding chemical and thermal processes, supporting star formation, and subtly shaping the behavior of gas and dust. And as we imagine tracing these flows across space, following currents of energy, light, and particles as they move through dense clouds and diffuse regions, we perceive a slow, pervasive, and calming rhythm, a quiet orchestration of influence that maintains the galaxy's structure and evolution over billions of years. And this rhythm can be mirrored in thought, awareness, and breathing, promoting reflective calm, steady attention, and a gentle meditative state. And as cosmic rays encounter dense clouds, they contribute to ionization, heating, and the formation of molecules, enabling future stars to emerge in a process that is incremental, patient, and integrated into the galaxy's larger cycle of creation and transformation. And this process teaches that even subtle, persistent energy contributes meaningfully to large-scale outcomes, a lesson that resonates with the mind, showing that small, steady, or invisible efforts can sustain balance, growth, and harmony over time. And as we drift through regions rich with cosmic rays and radiation, imagining them moving through filaments of gas, across nebulae, and past clusters, we sense a continuous network of gentle interaction, guiding energy, shaping matter, and maintaining equilibrium. And this perception encourages trust, calm, and reflective observation, showing that even vast, complex, and energetic systems can operate harmoniously, steadily, and predictably, without disruption. And as we expand our awareness to include the integrated effect of cosmic rays and interstellar radiation across the entire Milky Way, we perceive a subtle, unbroken rhythm that threads together spiral arms, clusters, halos, and the galactic center, a pervasive flow that stabilizes, nurtures, and supports the galaxy's long-term evolution, and this expansive perspective fosters mental ease, patience, and surrender. Because it shows that systems can maintain coherence and continuity, even when much of their activity is invisible, diffused, or subtle, and as we imagine drifting alongside these flows, tracing their influence on gas, dust, and stars over millions of years, we perceive the interconnectedness of all matter and energy, a gentle, pervasive network in which each element contributes to the whole, and this awareness encourages a meditative state, reflecting the mind's ability to observe, integrate, and relax within complex, continuous processes, and ultimately, cosmic rays and interstellar radiation within the Milky Way provide a model of enduring influence, subtle energy, and pervasive calm, illustrating that even invisible forces shape structure, facilitate creation, and maintain balance, offering a cosmic lullaby of quiet power, continuous flow, and gentle integration, night after night, across billions of light years, allowing consciousness to drift effortlessly within the galaxy's subtle, unhurried, and harmonious embrace. Finally, as we turn our attention from the pervasive flows of cosmic rays and interstellar radiation to the overarching narrative of the Milky Way as a living, dynamic, and interconnected galaxy, we begin to perceive the galaxy not merely as a collection of stars, dust, gas, and dark matter, but as a vast, orchestrated system of interdependent components, each moving, evolving, and interacting in ways that sustain balance, rhythm, and continuity. And this holistic perspective allows the mind to relax, because it reveals that the universe, in all its complexity and grandeur, operates with a calm, patient, and harmonious logic, a system in which even the smallest dust grains, the faintest halo stars, the most energetic supernovae, and the invisible dark matter contribute seamlessly to a cohesive structure. And as we imagine drifting slowly through the Milky Way, tracing spiral arms, observing clusters, nebulae, and the gentle flow of gas and dust, we sense the galaxy's rhythm, a subtle, unhurried cadence that orchestrates formation, motion, and transformation across billions of years. And this cadence encourages reflective calm, because it demonstrates that processes, no matter how complex or immense, can proceed without chaos, urgency, or disruption. And as we expand our awareness further, noticing the interplay of gravitational forces, magnetic fields, radiation, and chemical interactions, a picture emerges of a universe that integrates diversity, energy, and variation into a stable, coherent, and enduring system. And this integrated perspective fosters mental ease, showing that complexity need not create tension, but can exist within harmony, rhythm, and predictability. And the Milky Way's continuous evolution, from the birth of stars within nebulae to the gradual death and recycling of stellar material, illustrates cycles of creation, destruction, and renewal that are both patient and inevitable, offering a cosmic model for understanding the flow of life, thought, and consciousness. And as we imagine star clusters orbiting the galactic center, nebulae slowly forming new suns, dust drifting along spiral arms, and dark matter stabilizing motion invisibly, we perceive a web of gentle influence, interconnectedness, and persistent guidance, a network in which each element contributes to the whole, without disruption or haste. And this perception encourages reflective meditation, because it mirrors the mind's natural need for balance, continuity, and integrated flow, allowing thought, attention, and emotion to move gently without conflict or pressure. And as we consider the vast timescales over which these processes unfold, from millions to billions of years, we develop a sense of patience and perspective, recognizing that meaningful change, creation, and evolution require time, steady interaction, and the harmonious contribution of multiple factors. And this temporal expansion encourages the mind to release urgency, allowing awareness to rest, observe, and integrate experiences slowly and gently. And as we drift past distant spiral arms, observing the interplay of light, shadow, dust, gas, and stars, we notice the subtle gradients, flows, and patterns that emerge from collective motion, a visual and conceptual rhythm that is soothing, meditative, and deeply reassuring. And within this rhythm, even violent or energetic events, such as supernovae or stellar winds, are absorbed, moderated, and integrated, contributing to ongoing balance, structure, and the galaxy's long-term stability. And this moderation illustrates that energy, intensity, or disruption can exist without threatening overall harmony, offering a model for emotional and cognitive calm, where intense experiences can be acknowledged, integrated, and released within a stable, supportive framework. And as we extend our awareness to include the Milky Way's interactions with neighboring galaxies, the gentle pull of tidal forces, and the slow accretion of material from past mergers, we perceive a galaxy that evolves gracefully, adapting to change while maintaining coherence, structure, and rhythm. And this adaptability reinforces a sense of mental resilience, showing that systems can absorb external influence without losing integrity. And as we drift through this grand perspective, observing the interplay of creation, evolution, and stability across the entire galaxy, a profound sense of calm emerges, because we recognize that all processes, from the tiniest dust particle to the largest stellar cluster, contribute harmoniously to the Milky Way's enduring pattern. And this holistic understanding encourages trust, patience, and surrender, demonstrating that even in immense complexity, balance, order, and gentle flow prevail. And ultimately, the Milky Way, in all its luminous stars, invisible dark matter, drifting dust, energetic phenomena, and rhythmic motion, provides a cosmic lullaby, a model of enduring continuity, subtle orchestration, and interconnected harmony, inviting consciousness to rest, observe, and drift gently through space and time, night after night, across billions of light years, wrapped in the galaxy's serene, expansive, and unhurried embrace, a lullaby of creation, motion, and cosmic calm.